And good morning. Welcome on into the Nick Abraham Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show here on the all-new WEOL.com, also on the Chronicle Telegram YouTube channel. I'm Rocco. He is Jared Kozar, and here we are at the Chronicle Telegram again with another episode of the Nick Abraham Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show. Big thanks to all of our sponsors for this morning's program. Of course, Nick Abraham, Elyria Ford on the corner of Route 57 and East Broad Street, Stewart's TV and Appliance over there on 468 Cleveland Street, and of course, our friends over at Eco Tree Services, your complete tree care company. Well, Jared, it was an interesting night in and around Lorain County. We'll have plenty of scores to talk about here. We'll have plenty of coaches to talk to. Mike Elder from the victorious Avon Eagles will get us started here in about 7 or 8 minutes here, about 9:10. He'll get on the horn and he'll join us to talk about a big 28-16 win over Glenville. We were on hand for that one last night. It was my first trip to Avon in terms of doing a football broadcast here on WEOL, so I'm certainly excited to talk to Coach Elder about that. And as it always seems to be here in the non-conference, we see some surprising scores. We see some not so surprising scores. So we'll dive into those here shortly. But I guess we can just quickly start with that Avon atmosphere last night, just because we were both there. Really an awesome environment, as Coach Mike Elder shared on Twitter after the game, talking about just how special Friday nights in Avon can be under those Friday night lights. And really just a packed house over there at Avon. You wouldn't expect anything different, though, between the Eagles and Glenville.
Certainly, and the weather really helps out too, where we're getting that sort of, I don't want to call it early fall, but it feels like it out there where you know it's very comfortable to be in the stands and just sharing a great Friday night experience. That's their first Friday night game too.
Right.
They were Thursday and Thursday back to back to start the season, but for them to be able to have basically capacity crowds in their first 2 home games of the year, very special environment over there in Eagle Country. And as Tom Evans pointed out, they got to do something about the logistics, because if you're going to sell that place out every week, and there's no reason to think they won't, it's tough if you're driving up and down Stony Ridge there, one lane. But they got us out of there in short order last night on the way out. Way in, different story.
Well, yeah, that was he almost went full Peltomania on us as he was making his way
Closest
up the
I've seen.
I hit him with the Caddyshack line, and I didn't get a laugh, a chuckle, a
No.
smile, and nothing. I just got a half scowl as he continued to
I got
saunter.
the stiff arm when he came in there. So at least you just got the.
Well,
yeah.
That's
I got the.
That's tough.
Yeah,
That's a tough one.
We got a more brother relationship, Tom and I guess.
Well, we'll try to effort something better next week.
I push right in the wall. I'll tell anybody that will listen.
But you can take it, though, right? You've taken some hits in your day.
Have to.
There you go. You roll with the punches. All right, so let's dive into some of these scores from last night. I'll start things off here with a score out of the Greater Cleveland Conference. Lorain taking one on the chin to Sandusky. This one was one of the more surprising ones, I think, between you and I here, Jared. Sandusky defeating Lorain 32-20 as the Blue Streaks upend the Titans there in the Lorain County League, or I guess scores from the Lorain County League as we wrapped up non-conference play last night. One game tonight, though, still to talk about, but we'll get there when we get there. So Smithville defeated Black River 14-8 was the final score there. Margaretta upends Brookside 48-7. Scott O'Donnell and his Cardinals still looking for win number 1 on the season. Same can be said for Cody Kaya and his Clearview Clippers. They fall to Youngstown East 28-3, the final score there. Mike Rice, those Columbia Raiders, they keep it rolling. They throttle Northwestern, blanking them 49-0. Tough times continue for the Firelands Falcons and head coach Ryan O'Rourke. They fall to Bay big time, 42-6 was the final score there. It was a great start for the Keystone Wildcats last night, but unfortunately did not end well as they surrendered 28 straight after jumping out to a 14-0 lead against Crestview. So Keystone falls 28-14. How about the Oberlin Phoenix here, Jared? My goodness, a 31-game losing streak comes to a close last week. And so you're already thinking, okay, they got to be feeling great about this season, regardless of how it goes from here. And then they go ahead and double that win total, Jared. How about the Oberlin Phoenix? They knock off Toledo Woodward last night for win number 2 on the 2025 season. 21-18 was the final score there. Big shout out to head coach Kenny Washington and his guys finding a way to get win number 2 this season. Just thrilled for him, that program, those kids. Awesome stuff that he's got going on this season. Big shout out to Oberlin for that win last night. And Wellington gets by Plymouth 22-6.
One more quick detail about Kenny Washington. We caught up with him last week on the wrap-up show, and confidence was the name of the game, I think, for him, and he was just talking about the monkey's off our back now. We don't have to worry about this. We're not dragging that around, and I'm not going to say it's free and easy, but they went out there and they took care of business.
Yep.
And put a streak together, so congrats, going in the right direction. SWC action from last night, or at least scores featuring teams in the Southwestern Conference. It was Brunswick blanking Elyria 49-0. We'll catch up with Cole Carter in the second hour of this morning's program. Amherst all over North Olmsted Olmsted, blanking them 34-0. It'll be Tom Thome later on this hour. Avon knocks off Glenville. That was our YouTube game of the week, and it was a 28-16 score. Mike Elder coming up in just a couple of moments. It was Highland going to Avon Lake and just taking care of business. The Shoremen find themselves 0-3 after a 34-7 loss at the hands of the Hornets. Midview knocks off Elyria Catholic 41-20, our Stream 2 game with Ron Yance and Mike Rush. North Ridgeville gets the better of North Royalton 16-6. Brian Morgan coming up in the second hour of the program. And Olmsted Falls in a good one in overtime knocks off Strongsville 24-21. Tom DeLuca will join us later on this half hour.
One game coming up tonight, that's out of the SBC, the Sandusky Bay Conference. Vermilion on the road. They'll go to Willard. That one, I believe, is 7 o'clock kick tonight. So some Saturday night football for head coach Bill DeFucci and his Sailors. He'll be joining us at, 10:20, I believe, to talk about that one, head coach Bill DeFucci. In Major League Baseball action, the Guardians, they just can't decide. They can't decide what they want to do, man. They knock off Tampa last night, 7-1, the final score there. So I didn't even check the standings, but they're still within three and a half, something like that.
I think yesterday's win, because you were right there with Tampa. So I think that they're officially tied with them in the race, and that would put them 3 out right now.
Okay.
We'll confirm that as the morning rolls along.
Yeah, man, they just they don't seem to want to give up, and that's kind of the theme of that team. They got the September call-ups. You got some new bats in there. So
well, and there's going to be some common opponents coming up that you have to look at. You've got Texas on the horizon, and then your schedule softens a little bit with Chicago coming into town next week. So there are still some opportunities to make hay, even with basically 3 weeks left to go.
Yeah, and I know you got 6 with the Tigers in those last 2 weeks.
Tough.
And that'll be tough, and that kind of lost its gusto in terms of just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about maybe getting back into that divisional race. You were within 6, I think, at one point. So you were looking at that final stretch thinking, okay, maybe there's still a chance here at the division. I think that's gone by the wayside at this juncture. You can confidently say that. But yeah, that wild card race, it's still interesting. The problem is, though, like you said, you just got a bunch of teams kind of stacked right there on top of each other. So you kind of need some help along the way. But again, shout out the Guardians. They knock off Tampa 7-1. And then on the college football front today at 3:30, not quite the level of matchup that we had last week with the Buckeyes.
Not a big noon kickoff.
No, a 3:30 kickoff to be precise, as Grambling State comes to the Buckeye State. They'll go to the Horseshoe to take on the Buckeyes, Ryan Day, and Ohio State. And we'll talk to Chris Drew about that at 9:40. He runs the Menace to Sports podcast with former Ohio State assistant coach Zach Smith. So we'll get some thoughts from Chris. We won't do a deep dive into how we expect today's game to go. I think we all know how today's game will go. The Grambling State head coach in a press conference earlier this week basically admitted to knowing how this game was going to go, but there's still some things to look at. We were kind of talking about it last night. Do we see them open up the offense a little bit with Julian Sane? Do we see them let him kind of rip it downfield a little bit? Do we see them get a little more creative with some offensive and defensive play calling? Really a good opportunity to tune up, as they kind of allude with these tune-up games.
And showcase some players that maybe didn't get on the field last week against Texas that are going to play a role at some point in the season and moving forward as, you're in that reload, not rebuild mode at Ohio State, which is a good thing. But, getting guys some time against what you would think is a lesser opponent. But there is something special about Grambling State. There's a storied program historically in college football. So I think anytime they pay a visit to your program, there's something to be said for that. So, the moment's still good for, I think, everybody that's going to be a part of that one today.
Well, and I think it was Curtis Danberg's son, actually. Oh my gosh, I can't remember his first name now. Is it Tyler? Tyler
Danberg.
Zachary? Yeah, I know he's doing some stuff with Ohio State.
He's on the sidelines.
Yeah, and he put out a good tweet the other day. I mean, it really is two historic programs, obviously kind of on different fronts, but Grambling State, one of the HBCU powerhouses, so to speak, with some national championships in that regard under their belt. So, again, we know how this one will go as far as the final score goes, but certainly still a lot to look forward to. Anytime you can watch some Buckeye football on a Saturday afternoon, I think plenty of us here in the area will take that. And then the Brownies get started on Sunday. I know that's tomorrow, not today, but man, 1 o'clock sharp. Well, we're right back to screaming and hollering at our TVs, huh?
One of us will be. I'm sure that'll be the case. I'm interested to see, as much as it pains me to say it, not a Pittsburgh fan, that. But I've never not watched them when they're on. Just for some reason, you just watch them, and you can respect what they do. They're usually entertaining. You may not think that to a certain extent from time to time, but I think your matchup with Pittsburgh and the New York Jets is going to be pretty entertaining as well to take in.
Well, Rodgers taking on his former team, Justin
Sure.
Fields
Yep.
also taking on his former team, so you get the crossover there. So no, it's a good week one slate of NFL action. We've already had a couple of games happen. We had Cowboys Eagles on Thursday, and how about the Chargers last night knocking off the Chiefs? Did not see that one coming. Playing spoiler to the season opener for all the Swifties out there watching their guy Travis Kelce.
He scored though.
Hey, our guy Travis, he scored. No, we won't do the Pat Mahomes impression here. Sorry, Kermit. All right. We'll step aside, take a quick timeout again. There are the scores from last night as we round out Week 3 non-conference action. Again, Vermilion, the last team to do battle as far as our local teams are concerned. They'll be on the road at Willard tonight at 7:00. So we'll step aside, take a quick timeout. Hopefully, we'll be joined by Avon Eagle head football coach Mike Elder when we return. We'll talk to him about that win over Glenville last night. Again, 28-16 was the final score there. So don't go anywhere. Rocco, Nuosci, Jared Kozar here with you on a Saturday morning. It is the Nick Abraham Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show. We are live right here on the Chronicle Telegram YouTube channel. Where else, Jared?
You can find us online at weol.com.
At Nick Abraham Elyria Ford this month, you choose. Right now, get the Escape, Mach-E, Mustang, or Bronco Sport for only $399 a month with 0 down, or the Bronco, Explorer, or F-150 for just $499 a month. At Nick Abraham Elyria Ford, we make it that easy.
High school football in Lorain County is all about tradition, pride, and community, and that's what Stewart's Appliance is built on. For generations, Stewart's has been the family-owned appliance store you can count on for quality products and personal service. From refrigerators to washers, ovens to dishwashers, Stewart's has what you need to keep your home running. Proud to support Lorain County and proud to support high school sports. Stewart's Appliance, where community comes first.
Hi, Tim Elkhorn, radio voice of the Cavs. For several years, you've heard me talk about EcoTree Services on WEOL. Recently, I needed trees removed, so of course, I contacted EcoTree. They did an incredible job. The folks at EcoTree were timely, efficient, and the work was flawless. Take it from me. When your trees need attention or even require removal, contact EcoTree Services. Like me, you'll love their work. Find EcoTree Services online at ecotreeservices.com.
Lorain County has a story every day. Make sure you don't miss it. From breaking news and high school sports to schools, business, and community events, the Chronicle has it all. Stay connected to your neighbors and your home team with coverage that matters most to you. Don't just hear about Lorain County, know Lorain County. Subscribe today at chroniclet.com/subscribe and get the news that keeps you in the know. The Chronicle Telegram, Lorain County's largest newspaper.
At Nick Abraham Elyria Ford this month, you choose. Right now, get the Escape, Mach-E, Mustang, or Bronco Sport for only $399 a month with 0 down, or the Bronco, Explorer, or F-150 for just $499 a month. At Nick Abraham Elyria Ford, we make it that easy.
Back here on the Nick Abraham Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show, Rocco, Nuosci, Jared Kozar here with you, and there he is joining us down below, Avon Eagle head football coach Mike Elder. So we'll throw him on the stage here. There he is. Coach, you got us okay? You're walking around with us, so we're on the move. Where are you taking us?
I do. Sorry about that. I was just leaving our weight room. We bring our guys in at 8 o'clock, watch film, and now they're getting ready to lift. So I'm walking towards my car where I'll stop and spend some time with you fine men.
Well, we certainly appreciate the time this morning, as we know you guys waste no time getting right back after it. And, man, that I'm sure what was an exhausting game for everybody involved over there at Avon last night, Coach. You guys welcome in Glenville. You get the win 28-16. I know it was a little bit tight there late in that second half. Glenville closed the gap, thought maybe they got off the field. They had too many men on the field. You guys get a first down, end up scoring on that drive to make it a 2-possession game, and you guys sort of took it from there. So I guess just, some initial thoughts after last night's win, Coach. Again, a nice physical ball game, one that you guys were in control of throughout most of it. So again, just kind of curious your initial thoughts after that one last night.
Yeah, watching the film today, you realize, how talented the Glenville team is. And I'm just proud of our guys. They battled and battled and battled. And we knew that Glenville's defense, we felt was one of the best teams we've seen Glenville have. This is our 5th time playing Cleveland Glenville, and we just felt like holistically this might be their most talented defense. And that was put on display when they beat Massillon at Massillon, and then against Olentangy Liberty, the defending Division I state champs, it was 13-7. They didn't score till 2 minutes to go. So we knew what we were up against. And quite frankly, yards didn't come easy yesterday. It took our guys making plays in tight contested situations and grinding it out in the run game to make it happen. And so I challenged our kids and said, this is going to be like a regional final four, state championship caliber team in week 3. What a great test and opportunity for us. And I'm proud that we were able to get the job done. It wasn't pretty all the time by any means, but certainly when you play great teams, it's going to look that way. And I'm just proud of them that they kept battling and we found a way to get the win.
Well, I'll tell you what, one thing that did look pretty, and this certainly wasn't the focal point last night, but it is one thing that stood out to me. You guys had a couple of really creative offensive play calls, the trick plays or the gadget plays, however you want to phrase those. You had, a double pass to pretty much open up the game on that first drive. I think it was Grant Barr on the receiving end of it, caught it, put you guys into our Arbletter territory. You get the first points of the game that way. You had a flea flicker later on in the game that nearly led to a big completion. To me, calling those kinds of plays in a big game like that, that screams confidence to me. Confidence in your system, confidence in your execution, and confidence in that your guys on the field can just do that. Go ahead and execute those plays.
Yeah, I have a really smart offensive coaching staff, and they come up with creative ideas. Nothing's an original. We steal from other people. We watch college football. We watch the NFL. And it's always fun to put those plays in for kids. And you rep them and rep them and rep them. And so when the moment comes, you execute them at a high level. And, it's funny because even like on the flea flicker, it felt like we were too fast on it. Like we rushed it, but it ended up working. And unfortunately, we just didn't make the catch on that play. The halfback pass, or the double pass, that again was a perfect ball. We score there. So none of them were executed to perfection, but you're right. Yes, we called that. We called end arounds. We emptied the cupboard, with this team because we felt like we had to use everything we could to try to find a way to get this win. But the best part is, the kids enjoy practicing those, and we're always going to have multiple plays like that ready to go every Friday night. And it's just fun. And so when you finally get to call them, the kids are excited about it.
Mike, looking in another direction, your defense really put you in good spots last night. Never really gave up a big play, and were able to get off the field on third downs, not with regularity, but they never grinded a drive on you guys, or were able to really control the pace of the game. Talk about just the effort there with everybody and your rotation. You played so many people last night.
Yeah, the story of Avon football recently, for years it was our offense. And I still think we play pretty good offense in Avon. But let's be honest, Coach Cicchetti and his staff, when you fail, you need to learn. And when we were not beating Akron Hoban in the Final Four and we were losing all those games, we spent lots of off seasons talking to people and reinventing ourselves defensively and figuring out ways to make it exciting for kids to want to play defense at Avon, number one, and number two, schematically. And they've done a great job. Like I'm telling you that we have to go against that defense every day as an offense. And it's frustrating. And it's some of the most competitive environments you'll ever be around when we go best on best. And last night, those guys played exceptionally well against a really talented team and players. And, Glenville's quarterback is a very capable passer as well. And he scrambles and makes your life difficult there. But that was the story. Our defense is really good. And if they're good, you're in every game. And so that's the best part. I feel like, I don't know that we'll win every game, but I know this, we'll be in every game because we play really good defense.
And you mentioned the quarterback play from Glenville, Mike. A lot of times your guys are in position to maybe not bring him down, but slow him up, and then you'd get a few more guys to the ball and bring that ball carrier down when he decided to make himself a runner or a weapon in that regard. That's got to be something that just makes you happy to see in terms of week 3, where, maybe that's a play later on in the year. You think, okay, our guys are accustomed to it now. They know what they're doing, and we'll get better at that. But you guys are firing on all cylinders in week 3.
Yeah, last week was a tough loss, and I say this to everybody, you learn a lot about yourself after that, and I think it could hopefully be a good thing for us down the road to get it out of the way, instead of that pressure of this team trying to be perfect because they. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we got you. We got you.
All right, sorry about that. And I just felt like our team took extreme ownership. There was no finger pointing, there was no blaming, and that's what society likes to do. It was everybody looking inward, coaches and players saying, "What can I do better?" And that's when I knew as a head coach, like I'm going to enjoy this year. I don't know what the record will end up being, but I got a bunch of guys who love each other and they want to perform for each other. and there was no excuse making. It was what can I do better individually and collectively as a team. We got better, and so I'm really proud of the bounce back, because you're staring 1-2 in the face in an Avon. That's not the end of the world, but in this community, the bit of been a sky is falling approach, and so it feels a lot better today being 2-1 than it would have been 1-2.
So the exclamation point for last night's win, Coach, Blake Elder finding Finn Jordanic on the sideline on a ball that we thought had a pretty good chance at being intercepted. How did that ball land in the hands of Finn Jordanic, and what kind of night did that young man have? I mean, we know what kind of night he had. We were watching it and calling the game, but I'm curious your thoughts on that young man's performance. Obviously, Grant Barr will get a lot of the receiving love for his efforts last night, as will be the case throughout most of the season, but really a nice night for number 22 for you guys as well.
Yeah, it was definitely a game. We have multiple weapons at wide receiver, and guys will have to continue to step up, because schematically teams will try to do things to take away Grant Barr, and when they do, it makes everyone else better and gives them more opportunities, right? Grant's going to see the best corners. Grant's going to see bracketed coverages, and when that happens, we're going to run the ball more effectively, and we're going to have guys that can win one-on-one situations other places. So it's always got to be, if you're Blake Elder, what is the defense giving you? And we don't care how we get it done. The most important stat to the Avon Eagles is winning. And if we have to run it every single down to win a football game because people want to take away the pass, then we're going to do that. And if we have to throw it every down because you're going to stuff the box, we're going to do that. And if you want to put 3 people on Grant, we won't throw it to him. We've got other capable guys. So you got to figure out what the defense is doing and what they're trying to take away, and take what they give you. And I think Blake's doing a great job of seeing that and understanding that. And he had some elite level throws yesterday and did a great job of eluding some rushers. And, we didn't get sacked yesterday, which is hard to believe with that defense that we played against. But a lot of that's a credit to the offensive line and our running backs and pass protection. But a lot of it's also our quarterback does a great job in the pocket with his mobility and extending the play and resetting his feet and still having his eyes downfield to throw the ball.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Blake. That was my first time getting to see him play in person, and certainly had a number of nice throws that he made last night, no question. So, Coach, congratulations again on the win last night. We really appreciate the time this morning. I guess real quick before I let you go, I know it's not really my place to ask for a health update on the young man or anything, but hope Alex Rivera, your senior cornerback, is okay. I know he had to get helped off the field at one point there, so hopefully he's in good spirits this morning, and everything will be a-okay with him moving forward. Again, don't need an official update or anything on the health, but just wanted to pass that along to you. So thank you again for joining us, Coach. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. We really appreciate you, and appreciate you having me on today.
You got it. And that is Avon Eagle head football coach Mike Elder joining us here on the Nick Abraham Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show. Big thanks to him for his time here this morning. Again, certainly hope Alex Rivera, his senior cornerback, is okay. Had to get helped off the field at one point in that second half last night. But just a really impressive win last night for Avon over Glenville. It was a physical game, and it's not always going to be pretty or easy, as Coach said, in games like that. But at the end of the day, a win's a win, right?
Rocco, to me, Avon got the ball first. They went down the field and scored. Beautiful orchestrated drive by Elder, finds Luker in the end zone for a touchdown, the big tight end. And I think that just set the tone and put that loss last week behind Avon immediately. There was no thought of that moving forward in that ball game.
Yeah, no question. So we can just keep things rolling right here, because I know he joined us a little bit ago. He's been waiting patiently as we finished up our conversation with his SWC rival, Coach Elder. It's Tom DeLuca, head coach of the Olmsted Falls Bulldogs. He joins us now after a 24-21 win over Strongsville last night. Coach, thank you for joining us. Welcome to this new edition of the Nick Abraham Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show. Hopefully you're able to get over there okay on your end. How are we doing this morning?
Yeah, good. I'm not sure why you can't see me. I apologize. Don't know where I'm at here on the screen, but that's okay. Hopefully you can at least hear me.
We can definitely hear you. Yeah, not sure what might be going on with the camera, but that's a-okay. Most of the guys haven't joined us with the camera this season, so it is no problem at all. What was a problem, though, I guess, for Strongsville, is they come up short against you guys 24-21 in overtime, and what seemed to be a really good ball game. We haven't gotten a chance really to read much about it or see much about it between Jared and I here this morning, so truth be told, Coach, we might need your help a little bit trying to break that one down last night, but it takes overtime for you guys to knock off Strongsville. Just kind of what are your initial thoughts after a hard-fought overtime win like that against a really good big program in the Mustangs of Strongsville?
Yeah, I'm very proud of our guys. We battled through some I don't want to say ups and downs. I thought we played a pretty good football game as far as like clean, not a lot of penalties, pretty clean in a turnover department. I felt like in the second half, momentum could have shifted both sides a number of times, but our kids kind of just stayed the course. Our message before the game was do your job and don't try to do anything more or less than just your job. And our kids did a great job of that. They executed the game plan. And, we had some opportunities in the fourth quarter to drive down the field and score and did not get it done. And the same with Strongsville. They had some opportunities. It was a great high school football game to watch. Ultimately, we ended up getting to overtime and getting the win. But the effort was great by our kids, and I was very proud of that.
We had heard a little bit about the style that Strongsville plays, at least offensively, and how it might be similar to what you guys do. Is that kind of true with Strongsville, with what you saw last night? Have they kind of changed up their style to sort of run, a similar system to what you guys have? And if so, does that not make things easier in terms of preparation, but does that help kind of prepare and get you ready for a ball game like that? The fact that they may present a similar style to what you guys do?
Well, when looking at it from a schematic standpoint, they don't do anything like us. But I think what you're referring to is they do run the ball quite a bit.
Okay.
They do it out of different offensive sets, but I think their goal is to establish the run much like our goal, and their goal, at least from my perspective, is to be physical. And they did a good job of that. They were physical up front. Their offensive line, I thought, is very good. I thought that their kids are prepared well, and they have a couple of really tough running backs. So I do feel like that's, the name of their game is they want to run the ball just like us. Schematically, we're different, but obviously you're not going to see a lot of the same stuff over and over again all year.
Coach, when you refer to that schematically, triple option is, I guess, loosely what people would say you're doing over there, and doing it to perfection now. How does it make you feel to know that, this early on in the season, teams have to prepare for you differently than probably a lot of other teams they're going to encounter on their schedule?
Oh yeah, it's one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing. And is that's to be a little bit different and to cause issues with a number of things. The issues that triple option presents are, like you're saying, it's not in today's game. It's not a traditional offense. Not many people see it, so it takes a time to adjust. It takes a time to get used to it. It's harder for defensive coordinators to game plan for it. It challenges the defense, and that's not to say that. I felt like Strongsville defense played well last night. They did a nice job. They got some really good, talented players, and it was just a hard, tough, physical game. But I do think that the schematics of our offense do pose problems for opposing coaches.
I caught up with a former colleague of ours, Tim Alcorn, was at the game last night, taking that one in, and he mentioned basically that you've kind of refined some of that too, to the point where it's not just going to be, we're going to run at you 56 times during the game. You're going to mix in some pass. You've gotten players and athletes that are going to be able to accommodate a little bit of a difference and I guess a change of pace. So how does that present itself versus maybe 7 or 8 years ago?
Yeah, I think we're a little different every year, obviously with the kids that we have. And, I think a misconception is that we always do the same thing over and over again. But, obviously we're going to have different kids each year, and we're going to try to play to their strong suits. I do feel like our quarterback is a really good passer. He's also really developing into a very good triple option quarterback. And so we want to try to play to his strong suit. We got some good receivers out there, and not that we haven't had those kids in the past, we have, but I think that's part of, what makes us a little bit different this year.
Who is your quarterback this season, Coach? I know you had a good amount of turnover, I think, at least as far as the offense is concerned. I'm assuming on the defense as well. Again, I haven't gotten to read or see much about you guys this season, but I know you got some new faces in there on offense, correct?
We have a few. We have quite a bit coming back, but our quarterback is different. His name's Cameron Pesh. He's a junior. but he's been doing a great job. Offensively, we have 3 running backs coming back in our whole offensive line. So we do have a good amount of guys coming back on the offensive side of the ball.
Did that sort of help with things in terms of offensive implementation this summer? The fact that, despite that you have a new signal caller this season with the junior that you mentioned, you have a lot of consistency up front, and you still have a lot of consistency in terms of the guys that, will be doing a bulk of running the football. Did that sort of help ease things with implementing the offense this summer and getting things going?
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt about that. We were able to, once we had our base plays established and installed, we were able to continue to move forward, maybe at a little bit quicker pace than we have the past 2 years. The past 2 years, we were trying to replace a bunch of a bunch of starters from the previous year. So we were relatively green the past 2 seasons. And not to say that those teams didn't do well, that I thought they did excellent and they handled it well. But this year's summer was a lot different in the fact that we were able to maybe refine some things quicker and get better quicker and then add a little bit.
Good deal. Well, Coach, we'll let you go on this one as Coach Tom Thome awaits patiently here in the queue. I guess a question we could ask all of our guys here after the first 3 weeks. What are your thoughts on your team as you guys get set to jump into SWC play? It's a grueling gauntlet, as we say almost ad nauseum here on WEOL, just because we know how difficult that SWC schedule is. What are your thoughts on your Bulldogs as you guys get ready for conference play?
Well, we took a look at our pre-conference schedule this past off season, and if you look at our schedule, I felt we have stepped up in the level of competition that we're playing. Played Mentor week 1, Brunswick week 2, Strongsville week 3. And those are 3 pretty good teams, and I think the reason being we wanted to do that to put ourselves in position to compete in the SWC against all the, like you said, the grueling schedule of it. I mean, week in and week out, you're playing teams who have great players and great coaches. So for us, we wanted to start out right away with challenging ourselves. And I feel we did that, and I feel like we're in a good spot moving forward.
Well, good deal. Well, we certainly look forward to seeing how this season plays out for you guys again as you get set for SWC play starting next week. So, Coach DeLuca, as always, we really appreciate the time this morning. Congratulations on the overtime win over Strongsville last night. And here's hoping to some more Saturday morning conversations with you as the season goes on.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
You got it. And that is Tom DeLuca, head coach of the Olmsted Falls Bulldogs. Again, his guys get a big 24-21 win over Strongsville in overtime last night. And because he's been waiting oh so patiently on the bottom of our screen there in the queue, he's all smiles this morning, and for good reason. It's Tom Thome, the head man over at Amherst. His Comets get a big-time win over North Olmsted last night. 34-0 was the win in that one. All 34 points, Coach, of your scoring coming in the first half against North Olmsted last night. So it seems about as simple as you got after it early, you got after it often, and you stayed in control from there. What are your thoughts after last night's win over North Olmsted, Coach?
It was good. I was really happy with how we responded, especially coming off of week 2. I told our kids we had to start fast, and we needed to be the ones that started the tempo, and we needed to impose our physicality in last night's game.
It was that sort of, and I know we don't always love to go back to a week ago. I'm sure you guys are obviously well past it. You're getting ready for week 4 now, jumping into SWC play. But was that kind of the bulk of the messaging throughout the week, Coach, and some of the issues, I guess you could call it, against Buckeye? It's just, hey, let's get off to a fast start. Let's play our brand of football early and then go from there. Is that sort of what this week was all about for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't think we played to our potential in week 2, and a lot of guys had to look in the mirror, a lot of coaches, players, and we had to make a decision. What do we want our season to be like? Do we want to, just coast, or do we want to stand up and keep grinding and fighting? And I thought I saw a lot of kids that, decided that's what they wanted to do last night.
And Coach, when, people reference last week and like Rocco said, we don't want to keep going back to it, but, that's been a really good matchup with you and Buckeye over the past few seasons. And certainly for some of our folks that may not be as familiar, or maybe even some Amherst folks that might not be as familiar with Buckeye, that's not your average team that you would think about a school that size and their situation. They're coming for everybody.
Yeah, no, obviously they're tremendously well coached. They're going to be physical. They don't make a lot of mistakes. But, once again, I always look at our team and look what we do and what we didn't do. And I don't think a lot of us were pleased with the way we executed that week.
Well, you got back on track last night in a big way, and as Rocco mentioned, all 34 of those points coming in that first half. So that seems like it's a very business-like effort in terms of the way you guys went about it yesterday.
Oh, absolutely. I thought the game plan was well constructed. I thought our receivers stepped up. We had some missed drops the week before. Cy was 9 for 9 for like 265. He passed the ball around. We had some big plays in the past game. We had a 99-yarder. We had like an 86-yarder. So we took advantage of some of the things that we saw in their secondary. And then our defense, that was our first shutout since, I think, 2020. And special teams, I thought, did a good job as well.
I want to ask you a little bit more about Cy, because I know we talked about him when you joined me on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, Coach, and sort of how getting him implemented with the rest of the offense maybe wasn't as difficult as some people may have thought, just because he had some familiarity with a lot of the guys already on the roster, already had some of that, chemistry and camaraderie, whatever you want to call it. But he seems to have it going. Like you said, big 99-yard touchdown pass last night. He had the 80-something yarder in there as well. He seems to really be clicking to start this season. What are your thoughts on your signal caller here as you get ready for SWC play now next week?
I mean, absolutely. I think maybe a knock on Cy was people didn't think he'd be able to read the field. We try to say we're a college offense, where we put a lot on our quarterback. They wanted to take away the run. They wanted to take away Cy running the ball specifically. And we knew there'd be some open spots in the passing game. We wanted Cy to let it rip last night. We didn't want him to, second guess, go with your first read, go with your gut, and put it on a rope, which he did. I thought our receivers did a tremendous job with, the yards after the catch. Peyton Leibacher had a really big night. And even David's 99-yard catch. I mean, he ran by a lot of people, but, you have people like Kale Charles, who's a selfless player. You got Peyton, they're blocking downfield to make sure David gets in that end zone. And David, here's a story for you. David texted me yesterday morning, Coach, I've been throwing up all night. Don't worry, I'm playing. He's our only two-way player. He scores on offense. He gets a pick. On kickoff, he rips the ball out of the kickoff return bin and scores for 35 yards. His stat line was like a cheat code. And I texted him at midnight. I was like, hey, why don't you be sick every single Friday morning? Right. And we'll go with it. But he did a great job last night.
Well, he's making opposing coaches sick, I think, with numbers and performances like that, right? What was the secret? Some ginger ale to calm the tummy? What was going on there with Mr. Duziak?
Well, I don't know. But, the other really cool thing is, and I don't know if I told you guys this, Cy's dad and David's dad played together in high school. Okay. And I don't think Mr. Duziak and Mr. Christensen ever had hookups like David and Cy are doing right now. So those two dads could be proud of their kids. But I know Jason and Mr. Duziak, they're loving watching their boys play together.
Coach, you mentioned the defensive performance. First shutout since 2020, I think you had just said. Why is the defense playing so well, I guess, at this juncture of the season? Or what are your thoughts, I guess, for that side of the ball here after the first 3 weeks?
Our coaching staff, led by Coach Passarello, they're doing a tremendous job. They get these guys ready. There's really no stone unturned in our preparation with that. So as a head coach, I don't really have to look at that side of the ball too often. And then we've just got some kids that fly to the ball. And we've got some big playmakers in Mike Passarello Jr., Ty Den, Patty Fellenstein. They're playing tremendous right now. But they know, the next couple of weeks, the task is about to get extremely more challenging.
Rocco, for guys maybe more along the lines of my age and probably Coach's age, Willie Beeman was the guy that would do that on the sideline and, have maybe a little bit of stomach issues and then go out there and torch somebody. So, make that the Willie Beeman theme the rest of the way, Coach. But before we let you go, you talked about the defense. We've talked about Cy having a really nice night last night. Since you've gotten there, it's probably a testament to you and your staff and your players. Quarterback play has been pretty consistent throughout your time there, and that's something that I don't know that Amherst might have been able to say over the past decade.
Yeah, and we like our guys outside of size. Well, Jack Coleman got to play the second half at quarterback. He had a great zone read pull for about 65, and for some reason there was a yellow hanky on the field, which called that one back. But we really like our kids. They put a lot of time and effort into it. And both Cy and Jack Coleman, Jack starting at corner. I mean, they're multi-sport athletes. We got a lot of kids here at Amherst that play multiple sports, that still focus and get the time and energy in. Kale only had one catch last night, but it was for a touchdown. Our offensive line continues to progress. So yeah, I mean, we just got good kids that work hard, and it's a pleasure to coach them.
Well, certainly seems like you guys are in a good spot, as you guys get set for the SWC Gauntlet starting next week. So, Coach, as always, we greatly appreciate the time, especially here on the kind of new format for the Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show. We appreciate you joining us, and here's hoping to some more Saturday morning conversations as the season goes on.
Absolutely, guys. And, hey, I wanted to give you guys a quick preview of the stadium for this week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
Look at that.
Casey said I was allowed to be on here today to talk to you guys.
Special permission.
He's like, go between the three of us, and obviously everyone watching. He's like, Casey's like, go out, go in the middle of the field, let him see it.
Yeah,
But no,
there's a guy that he gets it.
No, we love it. We're excited, and we got to have a great week of prep though, because Bree Mid Park is going to be a huge challenge.
Yeah, certainly will be. So that stadium looks amazing over there, Coach. So we're certainly excited to be there at some point this season. So thank you again, Coach, for joining us, and best of luck this week as you get set for Berea.
Thanks, guys. Have a great one.
You as well, Coach. And that's Tom Thome, head coach of the Amherst Comets, kind enough to share some time with us here this morning. Facility looking nice over there in Casey Wolf country. How about that? Wow.
There's nobody that understands what he's doing more than Casey Wolf when he said, go out there and let him see the panoramic.
That's the big bad wolf right there coming through. How about that? How many times has he heard that in his life, though? I'm sure. My gosh. Well, I see Mr. Chris Drew is ready to join us here below. So I'll tell you what, Chris, give me another minute. We'll get right to you. Let's get some sponsor thank yous, and then we're going to talk some Buckeyes and Grambling State as long as we can. No, we'll talk some other things, Buckeyes, but we will talk about that game today as well. Chris Drew from the Menace to Sports podcast joins us after this timeout. It's the Nick Abraham Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show. You're watching live on the Chronicle Telegram YouTube channel. Where else, Jared?
Online at weol.com.
At Nick Abraham Elyria Ford this month, you choose. Right now, get the Escape, Mach-E, Mustang, or Bronco Sport for only $399 a month with 0 down, or the Bronco, Explorer, or F-150 for just $499 a month. At Nick Abraham Elyria Ford, we make it that easy.
High school football in Lorain County is all about tradition, pride, and community, and that's what Stewart's Appliance is built on. For generations, Stewart's has been the family-owned appliance store you can count on for quality products and personal service. From refrigerators to washers, ovens to dishwashers, Stewart's has what you need to keep your home running. Proud to support Lorain County and proud to support high school sports. Stewart's Appliance, where community comes first.
Hi, Tim Elkhorn, Cavs radio voice. Recently, we had some trees removed. So again, singing the praises of EcoTree Services. In a few hours, EcoTree had removed the unsightly trees, cleaned the debris, and opened the area for a new fence. I can't say enough good things about the people at EcoTree. I've used them several times, always thrilled with their work. If you have trees that require pruning or need to be removed, contact EcoTree, a local business that deserves your business. They've earned mine. Go to ecotreeservices.com.
Back on the Nick Abraham Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show. Rocco, Nuosci, Jared Kozar here with you. Now, Chris Drew from the Menace to Sports podcast joins us. And, Chris, I don't even know if that's a proper introduction for you anymore, really. You got, 15 to 20 YouTube channels you're trying to get lifted off the ground as well. So thank you for joining us this morning, sir. Always appreciate the time. You're taking in some Little League action, right? You got the mini-me, you got the younger brother that you're trotting into the fields. Is he mic'd up today? Can we expect some content?
Not mic'd up today, but we're already 2 Little League home runs in. It's only the second inning. So, just a fabulous mess. We're working on cutoff guys today, and I don't think a single cutoff man has been hit. So we're having a great time out of the baseball field.
Well, that's that is fantastic to hear. And Jared, I'll have to clue you in on that guy. Chris's little brother, Caleb, he's been mic'd up a couple of times for some of these Little League teams. And boy, I mean, that is just pure content right there. I'll tell you that. Future gold mine you got with the younger brother there, Chris. So.
Yeah, man.
Let's talk some Buckeyes, huh? They get the
Yep.
big win over number 1 Texas last week in a game that I don't think many of us really knew how that would go going in. I don't think any of us expected it to play out as it did, sort of the defensive battle that it was. The Buckeye defense, Matt Patricia, the evil genius, he had Arch Manning and company a little shook there on the opposite sideline. So I guess before, doing the deep dive into the Grambling State matchup today, Chris, what are just some of your thoughts following that week 1 win over Texas? Buckeyes off to a great start.
It's fascinating, right? Like with Ryan Day and with Steve Sarkisian, both guys who are considered kind of the game's best quarterback developers and the game's best offensive minds. Week 1 with months to prepare. A lot of people thought that, okay, maybe this could be a little bit more of a shootout. But the opposite was true. Arch Manning and Julian Sand, neither of them threw for over 200 yards, and it was a defensive battle. But I was really, really impressed with Matt Patricia being able to install a defense quickly. That was the only concern I had was, okay, we know how complex it is, and we've seen times where when things are too complex, guys overthink and play slow. That was not the case. Now, both of these teams, Ohio State and Texas, are both going to evolve offensively into juggernauts. They're both going to be top 5 offenses in the country, and there is a decent chance of the 12-team playoff. Their paths cross again, similarly to Oregon and Ohio State. So, a good game. I felt like Ryan Day and Brian Hartline really got conservative there for long stretches, in large part because I feel like they felt like Texas couldn't score, and they ended up being right on that. So a good week 1 game, a fun week 1 game, and beating number 1 and now the new number 1 Ohio State is now on their back-to-back hunt, and they now have the target on their back being number 1 as well. So it should be a good season, and I like seeing that first big test early.
Chris, defensively, the term bend, don't break was used a lot during that broadcast in terms of the Buckeye unit. But when you think about it, they've made some replacements. You've lost some guys to the NFL. I mean, we're not talking about people that were just, rotational guys, big-time contributors. And to go out there and have a goal line stand against a team like Texas and really change the momentum of that game at that point and never look back, what does that mean to a unit like that?
Well, it's huge for a young unit, especially like you nailed it on the head. Ohio State is replacing 8 of 11 defensive starters, including the entire D line last year that was responsible for a lot of those goal line stops. So it's huge, man. Like when a young unit like that can go out there, and young players like Jarquez Carter and guys like that who are freshmen and sophomores go out there for a goal line play, and they put the weights in their pocket and get a stop. All of a sudden, that kind of mentality is going to carry over the rest of the year. So like now, when you get down to the 2-yard line, okay, I got a good chance of getting a stop here, and we proved it against now Texas instead of just like your Akrons, and shout out Akron. So for me it was huge, and for them I know it was huge, and you feel good, especially down in the goal line. And this is what I'll say, just not to get too scheme heavy. I talked to 2 people on Tuesday about the goal line stop, and they both told me that this year's unit, they feel so good in press man coverage that they don't need safeties to do anything else other than selling out on the run. And while that does seem like a real natural assumption, it's like, okay, yeah, like you always want to sell it on the run. A lot of times with Sark, you become susceptible to some of the play action stuff, especially on the short yardage stuff. But because they trust their corner so much in press man, they know, look, Caleb Downs, Jen McClain, like, don't even worry about anything other than stopping this. And so they summer in, they went over the top, and that kind of confidence I think is important for Ryan Day and company kind of long term.
Arvell Reese, Chris, what's the
Oh,
ceiling for him this season? You're pretty high on him after week 1.
there isn't a ceiling. Oh my gosh, Rocco's doing this on purpose. I love Arvell Reese. I interviewed Ted Ginn Sr. 2 years ago, and then again one other time. And both times he said, just watch out. He got to Ohio State a year early, was really under recruited, and oh my goodness, I feel like he's cut from the same cloth as Abdul Carter, as Harold Perkins, as Michael Parsons. He is legit 6'4". He's 238 right now, and he's got 0 physical limitations. He plays linebacker like a Georgia linebacker. He plays linebacker like an Alabama linebacker. Like this isn't your Cody Simons. This isn't your Tough Borland. This isn't one of those. This is a different breed, a different position. And in high school, he played so many different positions, offensively and defensively, that him plus Matt Patricia, they're able to use his versatility. There were 3 times last week where they lined him up at kind of essentially a D tackle. Said, hey, we want you to stand up, play inside because we think you can go be the guard. They lined him up at defensive end. They lined him up at the Mike and the Will. He's all over the place. He's the most athletic linebacker I've seen at Ohio State, maybe since Darren Lee.
Wow.
So So I'm really high on him. I'm really high.
Yeah, no, I certainly so, and I knew, yeah, that was a little purposeful with the question. I knew how high you were
Yeah.
on him after week one. Go ahead, Jared.
Well, he referenced the Bama linebackers, and what came to me immediately, and again, showing my age, I thought Derek Thomas. That's the guy I looked at.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
you that could go anywhere you want in that scheme and just be a difference maker and somebody that you're going to have to look out for on the field. That's what stuck out to me right away.
You guys want to know something crazy? And I haven't shared this with anybody. He's upset with himself for how he played against Texas. He doesn't
Arvell.
think he played fast enough. Yes, Arvell Reese, 9 tackles, only sack. Yes, it was all over the place. Is upset with himself after reviewing how he played against Texas. That's the kind of standard he holds himself to.
Wow, I mean this Buckeye team, because you talked about it with Ryan Day being not upset, but was talking about things that could be improved upon immediately following that Texas win. So a very very businesslike approach from Coach Day and friends here in the early goings. Are there concerns offensively, Chris, with this team right now? I've seen some conversations about the running back room and the Buckeyes don't really have that true explosive dynamic, running back that can hit you in a bunch of different ways. And maybe people are right on that. Maybe people are wrong on that. I don't know. Not that, Grambling State will give us answers today by any stretch, but I guess kind of a two-part question. Again, are there some concerns offensively, Chris? And what can the Buckeyes do to maybe tune some things up today against Grambling State? I'm assuming we'll see Coach Day in that offense probably open things up with Julian and some of those receivers as well.
Early in the year, the defenses are usually ahead of the offenses, and Pete Kwiatkowski, the DC at Texas, did a really fantastic job. I don't really have concerns about the offense. I really just believe that Texas had a really good game plan, and Ryan Day, after some early drops, got with Brian Hartline and said, let's be conservative. Let's keep the ball, on the ground. Let's try to kind of grind this game out because we don't want to do anything that would be a spark to the Texas offense because we don't think they can score. I think over the next couple of weeks, we're going to see some explosion from the offense. And, the running back question's intriguing. I think Jinx Peoples is explosive. C.J. Donaldson just keeps you on schedule. And if people are worried or if people are right now about the running backs not having enough, they're going to be wrong in 5 weeks because Bo Jackson at some point, if these running backs don't get it together, he's going to be the guy. So it's either now or later. I think that in the future, I think that the uncharacteristic drops kind of, I think, squeeze the game plan a little bit for Ryan Day and Ohio State. And the fact of the matter is this, Rocco. If your pass catchers at Ohio State were the worst unit on offense over the weekend, that'll never happen again, right?
Yeah.
That's like when you win a series and Jose Ramirez goes like 0 for 8. It's like, okay, we know he's going to hit at some point down the road, so we will take that. Like, this will not happen again. So I think the offense is going to be okay. I think this week there's going to be a real emphasis on getting Max Clare and Brennan Ennis involved because what Ohio State and Ryan Day and Heartline want to do is when we get ready for the Penn States of the world, we know that they are going to want to take away who? Jeremiah Smith. And we want Jim Knowles or whoever, when they're planning to take away Jeremiah Smith, to not have their heart all the way in it because every time they cut on tape, they see Brandon Ennis and Max Clare going crazy and Cardinal Tate as well. So I think that will start this week. I expect them to air it out. Obviously, Grambling State isn't the juggernaut that Texas is. They do have a former receiver coach, a former elite receiver coach, another head coach. So they will do funky stuff offensively with the receivers. I don't think it's going to matter. It shouldn't matter. So this will be kind of one of the games that Ohio State fans have earned because it's been 6 straight games against top 15 opponents. Like, you've now earned the right to take a deep breath, have your buffalo chicken dip, and watch what should be an offensive showcase.
There you go. People forget it's been just a lot of those big time matchups in a row for the Buckeyes. So they finally get that, quote unquote tune up game here today. All right, man. Awesome stuff as always. If the folks want more Chris Drew, where can they find you at?
I'm not hard to find, just Chris Drew, but with a K. If you look me up, I'm sure I'll pop up. Who knows?
There you go. Simple as that. Give him some love.
Simple
give him
as that.
Support. Chris Drew, always appreciate the time, my friend. Have a great rest of the Saturday. Best of luck to the little bro out there, and we'll catch up again here soon.
I appreciate you guys. Take care.
You as well. That's Chris Drew from the Menace to Sports podcast with former Ohio State assistant Zach Smith, kind enough to share some Buckeye talk with us here this morning. We always appreciate his time. All right, so we'll just keep things rolling here to round out this 9 o'clock hour. Let's bring him on stage. He's been waiting so patiently. The little Tiger Woods fist bump as he enters the stage here. It is the one and only, the voice of the WEOL.com Stream 3 Medina County matchup along with Chad Meyer. It's Michael Keefe in the house, ready to talk some Medina County football with us, and I'm sure sure we'll dive into some other fun stuff here as well. So what's going on, man? How we doing this morning?
I'm just sitting here listening to Chris getting fired up for Ohio State Grambling. I don't even care about the game. The battle of the bands today is going to be unbelievable with Ohio State and Grambling. Can't wait to watch it.
That's been most of the social media conversation kind of garnering this matchup. It is the battle of the bands that'll take place at the Horseshoe today. So now we're looking forward to that. But Michael, why don't we start with the game that you were on hand for over at Avon Lake last night? The Shoremen, man, they took one on the chin against a very, very good Highland Hornets team. 34-7, I believe, was the final score there. You guys caught up with Hornets head coach Mike Gibbons after the game. And boy, I mean, he's got that program rolling right now. It's been in a number of really successful years in a row now for those Hornets, and they seem to just be picking up right where they left off now this year. Again, a big win over at Avon Lake last night for Highland.
I got to give credit to Chad, because as we were talking before the game, he basically called exactly how that game was going to go, and he said it on the pregame as well. Highland does this thing, and Chad asked Mike Gibbons about it after the game, where they, like, the first quarter is like always a feeling out process with them. We've seen him do it for like 10 straight years, where you always feel like in a Highland game you're going to be in a close game after the first quarter. And we were 7-7 at the end of the first quarter in yesterday's game, and by the time halftime hit, it was 34-7 Highland. And that is just very much indicative of how the Highland Hornets tend to operate. It's kind of like they slowly and methodically make their way into a game, and it's almost like they can see after one opponent's drive exactly what that opponent wants to do, and then they just shut it down the whole rest of the game. Highland winds up turning over Avon Lake 5 times, 4 interceptions, and listen, that Dawson Tenbrink kid, the sophomore quarterback for Avon Lake, has a really bright future. The way he throws the ball, the way he can run the ball, he was really impressive, and he still wound up with 4 picks in that game. That is just the methodical nature of Highland. And I think the other impressive thing, guys, from last night that we saw, normally when you hear about a Highland win, you're talking about their Mr. 2000, Casey Miser, one of the best running backs. I think he maybe had 50 yards in that game, maybe. Wow. So this was everybody else on Highland. Grady Gibb, their senior quarterback, had 3 touchdown passes and a rushing touchdown all in the second quarter. It was just methodical. And then the second half hit, and it was just kind of, hey, let's let Avon Lake play a little bit of offense, but then shut it down when we need to. We'll just run the ball a whole bunch of times and let this clock run out. It was really impressive.
Well, that's sort of similar to what Chris had told us with Ohio State. They get the win over Texas last week, despite the receivers, their best unit usually year in and year out anymore, not having the most sharp afternoon that they could have had. And I guess it sounds like, I don't want to say similar for Highland, but, like you said, you don't get that big time production out of your top guy. It was kind of the everybody else's that were stepping up. And that's usually the mark of a pretty dang good football team. Not that we had questions about that regarding Highland, right? We know what kind of program Coach Gibbons has there, but I just think that goes to show that they're maybe just, on another level, right?
Yeah, listen, I think if you wrap up games, I think it's hard to not underestimate how great these last 2 weeks have been for Highland. When you wrap up a game back-to-back against a Hudson team that's going to win a lot of games this year and that has a quarterback that's going to do a lot of special things at Hudson, and then Avon Lake, which I know maybe they're not quite having the kind of year with the sophomore quarterback. They're really young, but they've had a killer start to their schedule too. In Avon Lake, when you rack up back-to-back weeks against Hudson and Avon Lake, and the combined total score is like 66-7. That is an incredibly impressive 2-week stretch for the Highland Hornets. And then they go in this week and they play Aurora, and Aurora's their in-conference rival. And I don't think it's going to be close, and I don't think they're going to play another close game all season. I think Highland is going to roll through the rest of their schedule, barring some unforeseen thing. And I think Division II, Region 6, every team, including the Avon Eagles, should be very much on notice for the Highland Hornets.
Wow, that's impressive when you think about the acolytes of that region and what we've come to know from those programs. Michael, you mentioned, just the Aurora matchup looking ahead to next week, and that's one that I think we always kind of circle, but it doesn't always live up. And you mentioned that you think that one might be already kind of written. So give us your thoughts on that in an early, scouting report and what you know about the Aurora program.
Well, listen, when you put Highland and Aurora together, last year we went out, it was week 10. Highland and Aurora were both 9-0. Aurora was averaging like 48 points a game, and Highland shut them out. Like, not even close. Shut out. See you later. That's still the kind of defense this Highland team is rolling with. And offensively, I think they're just as good as they were last year. If not, maybe even a little bit better than they were last year. So, you don't ever count out Aurora in that matchup, because it was just 2 short years ago, and it was another good Highland year. It was 2 short years ago that Aurora and Highland played a very close game that Aurora actually won, where they basically sealed the deal with an onside kick at the end of the game. So when you're going up against Bob Mahalik and the Aurora Greenmen, you never know what you're going to get. But I also just think, based on starts of the schedule here, this isn't quite the same Aurora team as we've seen the last couple of years. Aurora's coming into this game 1-2. They've got a loss against Brecksville. They lost yesterday against Twinsburg, which that's a great win for Twinsburg. But I just think maybe this seems to be a little bit more of a rebuild year for the Aurora Greenmen, as opposed to one of those big time competitive years. Again, you put the 2 teams on the field and you never know what's going to happen. But I think Highland is well prepared to go in and get a win in this game.
Well, I saw some of the social media reaction. Again, we're talking with Michael Keefe, voice of the Medina County matchup here on WEOL.com, our stream 3 games each and every week. Saw some of the social media reaction following that week 1 loss for Aurora against Brecksville, and people were surprised. I mean, it didn't seem to be a ho-hum, oh, wow, Brecksville, a nice win for them over Aurora. Like, it was a little bit stunning, I think, from some of the people reacting to that. So I think maybe there's something to what you're saying there. Maybe just not quite the year for Aurora that they're going to have, that they might have expected that to have over the summer. But, that's how it is with high school football sometimes, right? We know that. We've been covering this long enough. That's just kind of how things go. But, I mean, you never know. Things can always be up for grabs, like you said, with Highland, barring anything unforeseen. You never know. You never wish this. But, injuries happen, things like that happen. And that's why ultimately you play the game. So any other, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, Michael, but any other overarching thoughts here as far as our Medina County schools have gone? I know we're through 3 weeks now. You've seen a couple of the different teams on that front. Any overarching thoughts from you?
Yeah, we have 3 teams in Medina County that we cover with WEOL that are just unbelievably good. And 2 of them appear to be on a crash course at some point. Now, again, there's a team in Avon that has a say about it, and they have the biggest say of anybody at this point. But we've talked a lot about Highland, and I think Highland is a legitimate regional championship contender. They were last year. I mean, anybody that saw that game against Avon, if that game goes one more quarter, I think Highland probably gets Avon. It was a fast start for Avon and a big comeback for Highland. But don't sleep on the Wadsworth Grizzlies. We're going to see them in the first weekend of October, about a month, against that Hudson team. Chad and I will be out there and in Hudson to call that game. Wadsworth went up against Medina, and we know the Battling Bees ever since they have gone through the Drew Aller and the Danny Stoddard years. It's been tough. Last year was a very difficult year for Medina. This year is going to be the exact same. Wadsworth played Medina yesterday in Medina at Ken Duke Stadium and beat them 47-0. Wow. This Wadsworth team is very much for real, and they're still a little bit young, but they're loaded with Division I college talent. They've got guys going to play college football all over the place. And so, again, we give a lot of love to Highland, but somewhere along the lines, there may be a matchup between Highland and Wadsworth, 2 teams that are going to be in the same side of the Suburban League next year, which is going to be a ton of fun. That side of the Suburban League next year with Highland and Wadsworth and Medina, who's moving over there, and Nordonia that's over there. It's going to be very fun. But I think Wadsworth, really, really good. A ton of offensive talent. And you can tell by what happened yesterday, defensively, really, really good. And then you go down to Division III, and it's one of our teams I'm sure we'll see later in the year because they've got a couple big matchups late. But what a start to the season for the Buckeye Bucks. To get a win last week over Amherst, that was their only regular season loss last year, was against Amherst. And so to come back last week and take down Amherst in a bit of a revenge game. And then this week, a team that, we've often talked covering Highland that they struggle to get over the Avon hump. Buckeye has struggled to get over the Tiffin Columbian hump. And they go out and beat Tiffin Columbian 35-30 yesterday. That is a ridiculously good outcome for the Buckeye Bucks. And again, they've got Turner Delata, a new quarterback, a new system. They're playing a different brand of football. They lose Trey McCann. He was their big-time offensive playmaker, an outstanding running back. And they've switched things up. But Greg Dennison, again, he was the former coach at Wadsworth, now at Buckeye. He's got those boys ready to go. And they've had a really, really good, impressive start to the year. It started with Cloverleaf week 1, which looked like a ho-hum victory until Cloverleaf now has come out and won 2 in a row and have played really well, including the game we had last week against Keystone. So Cloverleaf looks better than we thought they would look. Buckeye, Wadsworth, Highland all look great. Those teams, and I'll throw Cloverleaf in the mix because that's not the world's greatest conference that they're entering conference play. Outside of Streetsboro, Cloverleaf has a chance to win pretty much every game they're in from here on out. So I'll throw them in as a team that has a really good season upcoming, or at least prospective season upcoming for those teams. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun football in Medina County.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that's just, like you said, just a number of really great, consistent programs that we've seen. You certainly don't sleep on the Fighting Justin Todds over there in Wadsworth, right? No. The Grizzlies are kind of the definition of consistency, right? So, no, it should be a really, really fun year for Medina County football as our respective teams jump into conference play. So, Michael, I guess real quick before we let you go, because I know you do a lot of Browns stuff. We've talked Buckeyes already here on the show. We'll show some love to those Brownies as well. Not a lot of hype around them to start this season, right? Not a lot of buzz as we've normally seen, and you give the double thumbs up to that. Why?
Who wants the buzz? What buzz? Why should they have any buzz? Plus, if I want my teams as under the radar as possible, give me the most under the radar, especially the Browns. I don't want anybody talking about them. I want week 12 to roll around and people will be like, "Oh my gosh, did you see the Browns record? Have you even seen a game that they've played? Wow, I didn't know they would be this good." That's how I want the approach to the Browns to be. No, listen. Coming off of back-to-back years where they went 11-6 and then 3-14. I think the setup of this year's team, and this is not homerism, I think this is just an objective look at the roster. The setup of this year's team reminds me a whole heck of a lot more of the setup of the team from 2 years ago than the team from last year. And there's a lot that goes into that. Obviously, Joe Flacco is the starting quarterback, and we'll see if he's, 2 years removed when you're 40 years old is more like 10 years removed when you're 25. Right. But we'll see if Joe Flacco can kind of reconnect with that Kevin Stefanski style offense. But remember, 2 years ago, that was the year Nick Chubb got hurt. So they didn't have Nick Chubb all year. So it was running back by committee, which, hey, big news this morning. They have signed Quinshon Judkins. Thank goodness. Yeah. You won't see him this week, I'm sure, but hopefully next week you get him out there. You got one really great wide receiver and then a lot of question marks, but guys that seem like they're ready to step up. I love the tight ends, Harold Fannin, David Njoku. That offensive line is still really good. So there's a lot about the team that reminds me of a couple of years ago. I think the defensive line is going to be the best defensive unit in all of football. Everybody's going to talk about Myles Garrett, Mason Graham. Everybody's going to sleep on Isaiah McGuire and Alex Wright. Those guys are phenomenal football players. You got Mike Hall out there, the Ohio State Buckeye. Malik Collins. There's so many good players. And then look out in that linebacking core for Jack Swessinger. I think he's a kid that is going to compete for the Defensive Rookie of the Year award. I think he's going to put up a lot of stats, and I think he's going to do it in a meaningful way. I don't think he's going to be 100 empty tackles kind of guy. We've seen that in Cleveland. Guys that have 100 tackles in a season, but they're all for 7-yard gains.
No Wally Raiders here.
Yeah, no. This is a guy that I think is going to be impactful, and all it's going to make me do is I'll be excited for this year, but I'm just going to hope and pray that we see the return at some point of Jeremiah Usu-Koromoa, because I think you got a chance with those two guys on the field, again, not this year, but hopefully next year, to have a ridiculous linebacking core. So I am high on the prospects of the Cleveland Browns. I'm not going to suggest anybody does any sports betting of any kind to put money on them winning however many games, but I do think it is going to be a much better, much improved team from what we saw last year.
Well, I'm certainly more excited now after hearing that diatribe by Michael Keefe saying that, this is what's going to happen. I think the defensive unit's going to be special. My problem is I just don't want them to be on the field as much as they may well very be on the field. They've got some holes in the secondary to work on. Not necessarily holes, but just everything I think has to go right for that unit in order for them to be successful. So we'll see what goes on. And please, hopefully Joe Flacco of 2023 was not just lightning in a bottle, but we'll see what goes on. It all starts tomorrow. And maybe it's the best opponent you can have in the Cincinnati Bengals, who don't exactly have the best track record in week ones.
One in Joe. What is Joe Burrow? 1-9 in weeks 1 and 2.
Right.
Wow.
Yep.
So
not great.
Listen, and they've had their own tumultuous offseason. I know they re-signed Chase and Higgins, but they fight with their one of the better defensive ends in football all offseason long.
They're alone.
They don't want to give contracts out. It's a struggle, and so it's been a little rocky down there in Cincinnati. So, but you still got to respect the fact that Joe Burrow could come drop back and throw for 400 yards. We'll see what happens.
He is more than capable of doing just that, right? You are. So, Mike, great stuff as always, my friend. Thanks for joining us here on this new look Nick Abraham Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show. Again, Michael Keefe, everybody, voice of our Medina County matchup on WEOL.com, Stream 3. Thank you as always, my friend. Have a great rest of the weekend.
See you guys.
That's Michael Keefe, again, voice of our Medina County matchups on WEOL.com, Stream 3. Boys, save some optimism for the rest of us. I guess I'm not big Browns guy. You know that, but
I
for
felt
those that are.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Just step right on up. And, in little tease here, in the weeks ahead on WEOL.com, you're going to be seeing a lot more material from Michael Keefe. So there should be some good things for you to be able to celebrate those Browns momentous occasions with Michael.
There you go. All right, Brian Morgan from North Ridgeville has joined the queue. I'll tell you what, though, Coach, if you can give us about a minute and change here, we'll get some sponsor thank yous to round out the 10 o'clock hour, just after the 10 o'clock hour. Now, when we come back, Brian Morgan from North Ridgeville kicks off our 10 o'clock hour. Bill DeFucci from Vermilion, they got a game tonight at Willard. He'll preview that one for us. Jack Armstrong, he was victorious over Elyria Catholic last night, where his Midview Middies. He'll join us at about 10:30. And Brunswick head coach Cole Carter will make his wrap-up show debut for the 2025 season at about 10:40. All of that and more coming up right after the timeout. It's the Nick Abraham Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show. We're live on the Chronicle Telegram YouTube channel. And Jared, where else?
At WEOL.com.
At Nick Abraham Elyria Ford this month, you choose. Right now, get the Escape, Mach-E, Mustang, or Bronco Sport for only $399 a month with 0 down. Or the Bronco, Explorer, or F-150 for just $499 a month. At Nick Abraham Elyria Ford, we make it that easy.
Lorain County has a story every day. Make sure you don't miss it. From breaking news in high school sports to schools, business, and community events, the Chronicle has it all. Stay connected to your neighbors and your home team with coverage that matters most to you. Don't just hear about Lorain County, know Lorain County. Subscribe today at chroniclet.com/subscribe and get the news that keeps you in the know. The Chronicle Telegram, Lorain County's largest newspaper.
High school football in Lorain County is all about tradition, pride, and community, and that's what Stewart's Appliance is built on. For generations, Stewart's has been the family-owned appliance store you can count on for quality products and personal service. From refrigerators to washers, ovens to dishwashers, Stewart's has what you need to keep your home running. Proud to support Lorain County and proud to support high school sports. Stewart's Appliance, where community comes first.
Hi, Tim Elkhorn, radio voice of the Cavs. For several years, you've heard me talk about EcoTree Services on WEOL. Recently, I needed trees removed, so of course, I contacted EcoTree. They did an incredible job. The folks at EcoTree were timely, efficient, and the work was flawless. Take it from me. When your trees need attention or even require removal, contact EcoTree Services. Like me, you'll love their work. Find EcoTree Services online at ecotreeservices.com.
Back on the Nick Abraham Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show. Rocco, Nuosci, Jared Kozar here with you. We're live here at the Chronicle Telegram. Of course, online at WEOL.com and on that Chronicle Telegram YouTube channel. Big thanks to all of our sponsors here for joining us for the show and all of our games so far in the early goings of this 2025 high school football season. Of course, Nick Abraham, Elyria Ford, Stewart's TV and Appliance over on Cleveland Street here in Elyria, and as well as our friends over at EcoTree Services. They are your complete tree care company. So we won't dive into the scores as we ran long over the 10 o'clock hour. What do you got, Jared?
Quick drop for EcoTree. They're having the firewood gathering event today. That goes till noon over at EcoTree. Tree.
All right.
And again, caught up with Tim Alcorn last night. He mentioned he was looking for some help. I told him, can't do it. Got the wrap up. Rocco can't do it. Has the wrap up. Looks like you're on your own.
Uh-oh.
I think he even tried to recruit Brian Morgan last night.
Oh, wow.
We'll talk about that in a few minutes.
All right. Well, let's bring him on in.
Gathering firewood for the winter, though, with EcoTree.
There he is. Brian Morgan, head coach of the North Ridgeville Rangers. They get a win over North Royalton last night, 16-6, to round out non-conference play. They get ready for SWC play starting next week. Coach, were you on the recruiting trail for Tim Alcorn? Did you get a message from the radio voice of the Cleveland Cavaliers, or did he leave you alone last night?
Yeah, it was always great to see Tim and, catch up a little bit. But, no, he did not recruit me, and I was glad that I don't try to sell anything.
Brian got in the car as soon as that happened.
Yeah.
A veteran move, certainly, and a good one at that for sure. So let's talk about this win to round out non-conference play, Coach. You get the win over North Royalton last night, again 16-6, the final score there. Now you get ready for Avon to open up SWC play, right? And I guess the defense is probably where the conversation should start with your guys last night. Correct me if I'm wrong on that front, Coach, but you hold what seems to be maybe an improved North Royalton team to just 6 points. I'm sure offensively, maybe you guys were looking for more, but defensively, anytime you hold a team to single digits, got to imagine that's something you're fairly pleased with.
Yeah, the MVP goes to our defense, and actually our punter, Finley Keller, had a great game too, and we won the field position battle, and we had some offensive linemen that are some starters that were out last night and had to try some new guys out. And, that's when you have to rely on your defense. And the play of Nolan Gill, our linebacker, Mike linebacker, who's the only returning linebacker from last year, had a great game. Carter Clark, our 3-year starting safety, was all over the place and making plays. And defense just swarmed to the ball and really controlled the line of scrimmage. So hats off to them and our defensive coaches because, they won us the game last night.
We were talking with friend of the show, Chris Drew, last hour, talking some Buckeye football, and we talked about the defense, especially their performance against Texas. And Chris had mentioned, sometimes early in the season, the defenses can be ahead of the offenses, so to speak. So I guess I'll ask you, does that apply to the high school level as well, Coach? Have you seen that? Not necessarily that applies to your North Ridgeville team this season, but I guess just generally speaking, do you see defenses kind of clicking a little better earlier than offenses to start a high school football season?
I think in high school, you could see it maybe in the first 2 weeks of camp. About this time, if you've got some experienced guys, you're probably going to, start clicking a little earlier than week 3. But, we've got 2 sophomores to start on our offensive line. Our senior center, Jason Ellison, was out last night with a rolled ankle. Should be ready to go for this week. But, we're trying to try out some new guys and borrow some guys from the defensive line. And, we want to be a 2-platoon football team as much as we can. And, they were getting their first game reps, in that game last night. And, we'll need them throughout the year with the depth that we have on the offensive line. And it was good for them to get in, see it on film and make some changes for the next game.
And Brian, you mentioned you're pretty comfortable with the depth, the amount of guys you have, bodies that are out on that field for you, but you're replacing a lot from years past. What do you and your staff like to do in order to put those guys in the best position to succeed in that non-conference portion of the schedule, maybe saving some for the SWC?
Yeah, it's when we had some games early on like we did, it's always nice to throw some guys in and see what they can do. When it's a one possession game, it's tough to put in guys that, maybe haven't shown in practice that they're consistent. So, it's nice to be able to throw them in and see what they can do. And, Javon Harris, a sophomore corner, starter for us last night. He's a guy that, has shown some bright spots, and we were really excited to see how he played last night. So, it's really good going into our conference because you're not going to stay healthy 100% across the board to find as much depth as you possibly can. And we'll try to keep on grinding with those guys that are backups to see if we can get some more out of them and maybe win some spots and keep the competition going. Because when you get the competition going, then guys don't get comfortable, and they have to improve every day.
The Avon Eagles now on the horizon next week, and certainly they're impressive. We talked about that with Mike Elder earlier in the program. But Rocco and I can both attest that final score yesterday, Glenville was never out of that ball game, and maybe closer than it might look in terms of what you read in the blitz this morning or whatever you catch on your social feed. Just talk about maybe what some of the early thoughts for that game are right now.
Well, it's a great measuring stick. The talk to the boys this morning was, we're going to know what kind of football team we are after Friday night, and we're playing one of the best teams in the state of Ohio. So we'll see how we are in Region 6 when the game is over, because we're either going to be pretty happy or we're going to be, looking at the film and trying to figure out how we can improve all the way through Week 10.
Well, Coach, I did have one more for you before we let you go, as Coach Bill DeFucci from Vermilion gets set to join us here shortly. We talked a lot to you early on in this season about just several new faces on both sides of the ball, especially up front with your offensive line, right? We've discussed that quite a bit. So I guess, now that the whole non-conference is done, you jump into SWC play next week with Avon, like we just said. Is there an area, position group even, whatever it might be, is there something with your football team that you're most pleased with, I guess, after the first 3 weeks? Again, whether that's a whole unit that's really stepped up, a couple of individuals, whatever the case may be. Has there been just a really good, I don't want to say pleasant surprise, but something that stood out to you in terms of a positive for your Rangers here through the first 3 weeks?
Yeah, our defensive line is it's the reason why we changed our scheme. We were a 3-front last year, and we moved to a 4-front this year because we were bringing back 4 experienced seniors on the defensive line, and we wanted to make sure our best 11 were on the field. So, they're consistent. Hamza Famawi is getting better every single week. Was nose last year, and now he plays defensive tackle. Ashton Cassetto started the playoff game against Anthony Wayne his freshman year at defensive end, and has been a starter and played every game at defensive end since that time. And he's a guy that is physical, and he got faster this year. Braden Laszlo is the other defensive end, and Christian Ensley is our nose. And those 4 guys up front can win the line of scrimmage, and they can make some plays, and it takes a little pressure off of us replacing linebackers this year. And you add in our 2 safeties. Carter Clark, like I mentioned before, is a 3-year starter for us, and I think one of the best players in Northeast Ohio. And we have Brian Strippy back there too, who moved from corner to safety, and it's like having an extra linebacker on the field. And Brian's a smart kid and a great athlete. So I'm really impressed with our defensive line and our safeties. And when you guys have a good defensive line and good safeties, it's really nice, and you can take some chances on the outside.
I'm sure those guys will be counted on, and then some this week as you get set to take on the Avon Eagles to start SWC play. So, Coach, as always, we really appreciate the time here on this Saturday morning. Congratulations on the win last night. Best of luck to you guys this week as you get set to take on Avon next Friday.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
You got it. Brian Morgan from the North Ridgeville Rangers, the 3-0 North Ridgeville Rangers, as they get set to enter SWC play. And obviously, before we welcome in Coach DeFucci here, Jared, just a different kind of test when you have to take on Avon, right? Any of our coaches would tell you that. Brian would tell you that. We know that. There's no getting around that. But I think that was probably a good message from him to his kids. I said this last night on the broadcast. I'll never tell any of our guys how to coach, but
right.
That's, I think, good messaging to your guys, right? Regardless of kind of how that score goes for North Ridgeville against Avon, you kind of just want to measure, see where you're at, and know kind of who you are as a football team when everything's all said and done a week from, yesterday.
Well, and I also think you got to look at it this way. There's some positives that are going in your direction right now. You're the 3-0 team, not the Avon Eagles. They're going to your place to play.
Sure.
So there's a couple things right off the bat that you could say, we feel good about it, and maybe that can propel us early in the game. And who knows what can happen for you at that point. I think that Brian has the right mindset, and this game comes at a good time in the schedule where, regardless of the outcome, there's still a lot left for he and his group to figure out and learn as the season rolls along.
Yeah, no question about that. So big thanks for Brian Morgan for joining us as always here.
Whatever he does the rest of the day, don't answer that text from Tim Alcorn about helping out with the firewood, because I mean, you're getting a text before the end of the program.
Well,
I guarantee you.
That's one that may fall upon deaf ears, unfortunately. But hey, that is what it is. Let's keep things rolling. Let's welcome in head coach over at Vermilion, Bill DeFucci, joins us as his team not in action last night. His guys will hit the road tonight. They'll go to Willard to take on Willard. And Coach, a 7 o'clock kick on that one, correct, tonight?
That's right. 7 o'clock. We're kicking them off.
All righty. So we are certainly looking forward to seeing how that one plays out. And I guess we could just start with the obvious one, right? How does the week of preparation change with a Saturday game? I'm sure that gives you and your guys an opportunity to either take in some other high school football on a Friday night, or maybe you guys just avoid high school football altogether last night because maybe that's just the approach that you guys take. I don't know. What was the approach, I guess, for you guys this week getting ready for a Saturday night game as opposed to, your typical Friday night affair?
Yeah, we're a creature habit out here. So we kept Monday through Thursday our typical practice, typical schedule, did everything we normally do. Friday, we brought the guys in, had a quick walkthrough, and then we got out and watched some football. So I had staff all over the county watching football games Friday night, and got a chance to take in the atmosphere from the spectator side.
Yeah, and that's got to be a pretty valuable thing when you think about you and your staff having the opportunity to go and break down other opponents that you're going to see, and just maybe just kind of a break from the norm that can help. Not that you're hitting the wall week 3 in the season, but just it is a little bit of a different week. But be able to maneuver it that way, I think, helps not only you and your staff, but the guys out there that are high school kids trying to be high school kids.
Yeah, certainly we've recognized in the past, with no school and games on no school days and just a disruption in their routine, kind of, man, it's an uphill battle. So we try to keep everything, as consistent as we could. Still brought them in. In fact, we brought them in this morning for a walkthrough, and they're getting ready to get breakfast right now. So we're just trying to be creatures of habit out here and kind of prepare and mentally be ready like it's any other day for us.
Let's talk about this Willard team a little bit, Coach, if we could, as again, you guys get set to hit the road tonight to take on the Crimson Flashes of Willard. And just looking at their scoring here on Max Preps, they've got, 96 total points of offense through 2 weeks. They blew out South Central in their opener 46-12, followed that up with a road win last week over Plymouth. 50-28 was the final there. So 46 in the opener, 50 points of offense last week. So I guess no matter how you slice it, no matter who their opponents are, that's a lot of offense that your defense will be posed with trying to stop here tonight.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They enjoy spreading the field. They're a lot of spread and trio and empty and even a diamond formation. They like to get the ball to their playmakers. They're about 50-50 run pass, but they do like to run that quarterback the majority of that time. So, our defense will certainly have its work cut out for them, stopping the run still, but also playing good pass defense and getting off the field.
And I know for you guys, Coach, only having seen you once over at Firelands earlier this year, just last week, actually, I know the whole, spread them out approach isn't necessarily where you guys have your bread and butter offensively. At least that wasn't the case against Firelands. I know it was a lot of Evan Coons and a lot of the big guys up front doing the work against the Falcons in that rivalry win. But can that be, I don't want to say like difficult to prepare for, but different with trying to orchestrate an offense to replicate, a Willard offense that maybe just isn't what you guys do yourselves offensively on a day in, day out basis?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, our defense does a great job of creating scout cards and hand selecting that scout team to give us the best possible look against our defense. So it is hard to replicate, when you talk about the type of athletes they have out there and making sure that we can give our defense, the look, right? The timing and the height and the jump ball type play. So, but our defensive staff does a fantastic job of game planning and putting our kids in position to be successful. So, we're confident of the preparation and the scout team. Man, kudos to those. You're talking about a lot of freshmen and sophomores out there on that scout team for us, just really trying to give our guys a good look.
Coach, with Evan Coons, you mentioned him, and then the near record-breaking performance last week. Certainly an impressive athlete that we've had the pleasure of getting to know over the past couple of years. Is there any pressure now after a performance like that to go out and do the same thing? Is the bar set higher, or is that just a, he's handling this like an adult? You don't have to go out there and do it all yourself each and every week?
Yeah, not having him week 1, I think really showed the team had confidence in our other running backs, right? The kids that filled in for Evan when he wasn't able to go week 1. So I think that allowed us to generate some comfortable depth, not from a coaching staff standpoint, right? We know the kids, we're comfortable with them putting them in and out, but I think from a pure standpoint, they don't panic when Evan's not in the lineup. And then when Evan comes in, there's that back to business mentality. Evans is level-headed as they come, and had a fantastic game. Credits the O-line, just an all-around great athlete, but he's also very humble, and he does a great job of kind of standing in that spotlight.
Coach, as we finish out the non-conference slate here for you guys tonight, again, the rest of our schools finished out last night with their Friday night affairs. You guys round out non-conference action tonight, again, on the road against Willard. Is there an area or two where you'd kind of like to see some cleaning up, or maybe some improvement might be a better way to phrase it, as you get ready for the SBC gauntlet starting next week?
Yeah, certainly week one, we were kind of 50-50 run pass as far as yardage goes. We did a good job of kind of balancing those up. Obviously, last week, you feed the hot hand, and when we're going to run the football, we kind of pride ourselves on that. So we're able to run the football more effectively. So as we go into here, finishing up our non-conference schedule tonight and getting into our SBC crossover games next week, we want to make sure the offense has all of its tools available to us. Make sure that passing game is solid and we're comfortable in it, and getting guys in and off the field, giving them breaks and staying healthy. That's the most important part for us, is make sure that we stay healthy and, just be 1-0 at the end of the day. That's our message out here, be 1-0.
Well, like you said, you get to 1-0 each week. That's the goal. I know a lot of our coaches have a similar sentiment with their, mental approach to each and every week. So I'm hesitant to ask this one, but I'll ask it anyways. But before we let you go, as you get ready for Sandusky Bay Conference play starting next week, just kind of looking around the conference as you evaluate yourself here through 2 weeks. It'll be after 3 weeks now once you guys are all said and done over at Willard here later on this evening. Where do you kind of see yourselves amongst the big dogs in the SBC? Obviously, we know some of the top programs within that conference, right? And you know that very well, Coach, as well, obviously. But where do you kind of see yourself stacking up in that SBC, or is that maybe just too early to tell still?
Yeah, we try not to look too far ahead. We don't project out. We don't want to look ahead and overlook somebody, certainly. So I don't even get in the scout film. We exchanged some scout film earlier this week for next week's opponent, and I didn't even crack it open. I'm a creature of habit, and I like the direction of the football team. I like our leadership from our captains and our seniors in this group. They're doing a great job of like I've said before, showing everybody that they were on last year's squad and they were part of that, and now it's their turn to kind of maintain and carry that torch for this year's squad. And I think they've done a fantastic job from a leadership standpoint of just being the core and being the foundation for this football team this year.
Very good. Very good. Always keeping things close to the vest. Now, we appreciate that, Coach. But thank you as always for joining us here this morning. You guys will probably be heading out to Willard, a little early or later on, early afternoon, I would assume, right?
Yeah, early afternoon. Bus going to pull out here about 4:20 and get over into our pregame routine.
All righty, good deal. Well, Coach, safe travels over to Willard for you and your guys here later on this evening. Best of luck to you guys as you go to Willard to round out the non-conference slate. And thank you, as always, for joining us. We appreciate the time, and I'm sure we'll be catching up on some more Saturdays down the line. Thanks, Coach.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
You got it. That's head coach Bill DeFucci joining us from the Vermilion Sailors. They get set for week 3 action tonight on the road against Willard to take on the Crimson Flashes. And we've talked about this almost ad nauseum now, Jared. And but they deserve the praise, right? Coach DeFucci, his staff over there at Vermilion. They've got it rolling. This was a program that when I got to WEOL, they were struggling to win football games on a consistent basis, and that is no knock whatsoever on any of the previous coaching staff, things that they had there at Vermilion. But the job that Coach DeFucci and his guys have done kind of getting that program back to the top of the SBC, they're a real threat week in and week out, and there's not a single team that can overlook those guys.
And a home playoff victory last year just did nothing to do anything more than just make the point you just made right there, that they're back and it's sustainable now. And I think that's part of their thing. Is that was the question. What would they look like this year? Well, through 2 weeks, we have that answer. They're going to against the high-power Willard offense today, but I think everybody is going to say that they like Vermilion's chances to be able to slow them down a little bit, play that brand of football, and control the clock and control the game. And that's really what you talk about. When you talk about your signature and your stamp, Bill DeFucci is making that happen.
Yep.
And they had battled back about 5-6 years ago to a point where they were a 500 ball club after a long time. And then tragedy struck the Vermilion program, plain and simple, and they were reeling ever since. And like you said, it's nothing about it. They were in react mode, and I think that was the way it was over in the Sailor Nation for a couple of seasons. Nothing bad about that. It's just it wasn't the plan. and now it is.
Yeah, no, it's certainly just been a rejuvenation for that program, no question. So big thanks to Coach DeFucci as always for his time here on the wrap-up show. All right, I see Jack Armstrong, head coach of Midview, is waiting patiently in the queue. Tell you what, Coach, give us about a minute here for a quick sponsor. Thank you. We'll be right back with more of the Nick Abraham Saturday Sports wrap-up show. Jack Armstrong.
We've had 3 weeks of Jack in just different capacities. So
wow.
Yeah.
Boy, not my greatest moment. That's all right. We'll be back here. It's the wrap-up show. We're live on the Chronicle Telegram YouTube channel. And Jared, where else?
WEOL.com.
At Nick Abraham Elyria Ford this month, you choose. Right now, get the Escape, Mach-E, Mustang, or Bronco Sport for only $399 a month with 0 down. Or the Bronco, Explorer, or F-150 for just $499 a month. At Nick Abraham Elyria Ford, we make it.
High school football in Lorain County is all about tradition, pride, and community, and that's what Stewart's Appliance is built on. For generations, Stewart's has been the family-owned appliance store you can count on for quality products and personal service. From refrigerators to washers, ovens to dishwashers, Stewart's has what you need to keep your home running. Proud to support Lorain County and proud to support high school sports. Stewart's Appliance, where community comes first.
Back here on the Nick Abraham Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show, live on the Chronicle Telegram YouTube channel, also over at WEOL.com. Big thanks to Vermilion head coach Bill DeFucci joining us right there before the timeout. Now let's go to Grafton and talk to Midview Midi head football coach Jack Armstrong. They get a big kind of crosstown rivalry win over Elyria Catholic last night, 41-20 the final there. So they double up the Panthers of Elyria Catholic, do Coach Armstrong's Middies. And Coach, as always, we greatly appreciate the time. I got to imagine all smiles across the Middies and Midi country here this morning. Anytime you get a win on a Friday night, that's important, right? But especially when you double up a rival in Elyria Catholic, I got to imagine that is something that puts a smile to your face here on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing like playing at Ross Field on a Friday night, and the place was hopping. The boys were excited, and we executed. Nothing like a Friday night here, so it was a blast.
Yeah, that was certainly a lot of I'd seen a couple of hype videos on social media leading up to that ball game last night. And I mean, if we could expand on that for just a second here, Coach. I mean, again, we've talked about this a lot since you took over the program. It's where you went to school. It's where you played at. So obviously just this whole program environment, it means a little extra to you, right, as the head coach now of the program. But getting things done like that on a Friday night in front of the home stands, I mean, that's just continuing to build the momentum that you've got, I think, right now with this Midview program. The fact that you're piling up the victories now, you're doing it in front of a raucous crowd. Obviously, the weather like last night, that certainly helps with attendance, right? But I got to imagine just the vibes, as they say, right, with the program right now, got to be in a good spot, I would think.
Yeah, Midview's got a great history of football. People that go to Midview, they know, and we have a lot of alumni that are parents, and the community comes together, and they know what Midview football is, and these boys have the confidence that they're really being part of rebuilding the M, and they know that, and they want to be part of it, and now we're seeing it. They're a great brotherhood. The staff does a good job with these kids. They're a great group of kids. We have a great group of seniors, and it's just a great feeling.
Jack, not to compare this group to any other that you were a part of, or maybe that you were even on the team. I think you might have been on one of these rosters, but when I read the Blitz and when I read some of the social updates and get with some of our folks here at the Chronicle Telegram about what they think about Midview, you start to hear familiar names. You're like, oh, Williams, McMahon, Newton. These guys are becoming synonymous with success in Midi football in a lot of ways, Jack. To me, it feels like that's kind of what happened 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell these boys, I graduated in 2012, and we kind of set the tone for the run when Midview was dominant, and that's my expectation with this senior class and with this football team. We got a lot of juniors stepping up. We got a lot of seniors, specifically led by kids like Braden Amoki, that their dad are alumni. They know the expectation here. They're setting the expectation. The standard is set, and they're living it.
Coach, and again, Jack Armstrong, our guest here, head coach of the Midview Middies. His guys get a big 41-20 win over Elyria Catholic last night. I guess to dive into some of the schematics or the X's and O's, whatever you want to call it, from last night's win over EC. You talked in the Chronicle Telegram post-game comments about your quarterback, Shea Williams, and how EC had sort of sold out to stop the run, that they load the box. They sort of forced the issue in terms of making Shea use his arm, go to the air a little bit, and looks like that young man delivered for you guys last night. What'd you see from him?
Yeah, I was super proud of Shea. I was waiting for a team to load the box so that Shea can show his throwing abilities. He's a dual threat quarterback, which causes another problem for defenses, and he executed. He was coachable, and we made a lot of big plays last night because of that.
And you also wanted to shout out your offensive line in the comments as well. Looks like they did a good job of just keeping him upright, getting him comfortable, allowing him to read the defense and make the necessary throws that he had to make. I guess just not even last night, but so far through the first 3 weeks of play, Coach, what's really stood out with your offensive line and their ability to get things done and execute at a high level?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that this is year 3 under our scheme and year 2 of a lot of returning starters. So it makes life a lot easier because instead of really focusing on the schematic of things, we're able to tone in on technique. And I think that's what's taken us to the next level is that these kids feel comfortable enough where during the practice week, we're really honing in on these techniques because they're really comfortable with the scheme and we're playing fast and physical.
Is that kind of an underrated aspect, especially within high school football, Coach, is the fact that, you need a little bit of comfortability if you are a high school athlete, right? I mean, we forget these guys are just teenagers, right? I mean, they have to be comfortable and kind of know really well what their job is on any given play. So it feels like when you're first learning a new system, you're still learning a new scheme, even if you know it, sometimes you still don't really know it. So you're maybe thinking too much about it. Is that kind of the luxury, not luxury, but the nice thing now that, you have consistency on that offensive line. You brought guys back from last year. They have more familiarity with your scheme. I'm assuming they're just able to play a little faster and not think as much, Coach. Like you said, just able to kind of go out, execute, focus on technique, and the rest sort of takes care of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. In the past, we'd have to have certain tags to make the kids right. This year, we don't have to have the tags. The kids are so comfortable with the scheme that they make it right. And then with 2 returning starters at guard, we have a really good sophomore at center named Ty Zan. They make him right and eliminate the thinking so he can just go and play physical football.
Jack, you talk about rebuilding the M. As a player, this was a conference game for you against Elyria Catholic, I'm sure, in some of those years that you were involved with the program. How much does it mean for you and the kids that are involved now in this iteration of Midview to be able to claim a victory over somebody that shares almost a zip code with you, just about 4 miles away?
Yeah, I always reiterate to the kids that playing at Midview special. There's nothing like playing at Midview. Midview's a special district because we have a bunch of different communities, different. We got kids from Elyria, mailing addresses are different, but at the same time, football brings Midview together, and I think that with the history against EC, it lets everyone know that Midview's back.
Well, that certainly seems like that is the case for you guys right now, Coach. Another impressive win for you guys over Elyria Catholic last night. Again, 41-20 was the final score there. So now one last one before we let you go, Coach. You jump into SWC play. You welcome in Avon Lake right back to Midview right next week as you kick off conference action. And that's always a good physical ball game, right, between the Middies and the Shoremen. I got to imagine your guys are excited to jump into conference play and really continue to try to prove themselves.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to referencing rebuilding them, and my expectation is to compete with the top dogs in the SWC, and in my mind, Avon Lake's a top dog in the SWC. So this is a big test for us. I know Avon Lake's 0-3, but they're a very good football team. They win against tough competition, and we got to have a really good practice week because I think that if we don't, we're going to have problems. If we do, we're going to go out there and we're going to go execute and be the most physical football team like my expectations are every week.
Yeah, you can never overlook anybody in that SWC, regardless of record, just like you said there, Coach. That may be an 0-3 football team, but it's a darn good 0-3 football team as far as 0-3 teams can go. And so I'm sure you will get your guys prepared accordingly. So congratulations again on the win last night, Coach. A big-time rivalry win for you guys. Really appreciate the time, as always, this morning. Have a great rest of the weekend, and here's hoping to some more Saturday morning conversations down the line.
All right, thanks. Go Middies.
There it is, the little go middies from head coach Jack Armstrong
Always
over
get
at
the go
Midview. You
middies.
always get that at the end. It wouldn't be the same if you didn't get it. And man, again, it's just, not to beat the dead horse or hit it over the head ad nauseum, whatever you want to call it. But man, I mean, it is just it's really good to see from us. These programs have a rejuvenation because it's not like college or pro fandom where we're, fans of certain schools and not of others or whatever. I mean, we love all these guys. We love all these schools. We appreciate the conversations that we have with our different coaches. And we feel their frustration, right, during some of the down seasons at times when we talk to these guys and we know the struggles that they're going through. And I know Midview was kind of dealing with that for a little while, especially when I had joined here at WEOL. But to see this program getting back to where it is, you hear the excitement in Coach Armstrong's voice there. You can kind of sense it with the social media conversation and just talks around the town, things like that. I think Lorain County football is better when Midview is a good program. You could say that for a lot of our local schools as well, but it really feels like Midview being where they should be and where they are right now just kind of helps elevate the feel of Lorain County football, does it not?
I would agree with that. And again, in my lifetime, they've always been, an upper echelon program in the county, a couple of lean years recently. But as Jack mentioned, we're rebuilding the end. We're getting it to where it needs to be. And I think he was prophetic at the end when he basically said, hey, we've got Avon Lake coming in. He has no recollection of anything but them being one of the top teams in our area. So he's not looking this as an 0-3 Avon Lake Shoreman team. As a matter of fact, I think both teams are getting each other where they want them in a way. It could be bring out the best in both teams. Avon Lake's going to be desperate for a win. Midview's going to be desperate for vindication. Our 3-0 is not an accident. Your 0-3 might not be an accident. Right. We want to make sure that you go 0-4. And that's the philosophy that guy has. It's just every time you talk to him, some of the things are basic, but they're principle.
Yeah, well, and when you coach in the SWC, that's pretty much the mindset that you have to have because you're absolutely right. If you're head coach Matt Kostelnik in the Avon Lake Shoreman right now, you aren't pleased with where you're at after 3 weeks, and that's not to pick on them by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think anybody in that program would have signed up for 0-3. They want to get that ship right.
Absolutely, but Jack has made it different now over at Midview. That's no longer a get-right game for Avon Lake. That's we got a tough customer.
We got a battle, and that certainly will be a battle. So, no, that'll be a good one next Friday night. Again, Avon Lake going to Midview to take on the Middies, 0-3, taking on 3-0. But I don't think it'll play out like those records indicate on the field. No question about that. So, big thanks to Jack Armstrong, as always, for joining us here this morning. All right, so awaiting Cole Carter at Brunswick patiently. Hopefully, we're able to get him on to talk about a big win over Elyria last night. It was Brunswick's first win of the season. I know their program in a bit of a rebuild, I guess, so to speak. So it'd be nice to talk to Coach Carter about that. We'll try to get him on here during this timeout. But if not, we'll have a couple of other things to talk about before we say goodbye this morning. Maybe recap the scores one more time, see what else we can get into. It is the Nick Abraham Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show live here from the Chronicle Telegram. Rocco and Jared with you live this morning on the Chronicle Telegram YouTube channel. We're also online over at WEOL.com.
At Nick Abraham Elyria Ford this month, you choose. Right now, get the Escape, Mach-E, Mustang, or Bronco Sport for only $399 a month with 0 down. Or the Bronco, Explorer, or F-150 for just $499 a month. At Nick Abraham Elyria Ford, we make it that easy.
High school football in Lorain County is all about tradition, pride, and community, and that's what Stewart's Appliance is built on. For generations, Stewart's has been the family-owned appliance store you can count on for quality products and personal service. From refrigerators to washers, ovens to dishwashers, Stewart's has what you need to keep your home running. Proud to support Lorain County and proud to support high school sports. Stewart's Appliance, where community comes first.
Hi, Tim Elkhorn, radio voice of the Cavs. For several years, you've heard me talk about EcoTree Services on WEOL. Recently, I needed trees removed, so of course, I contacted EcoTree. They did an incredible job. The folks at EcoTree were timely, efficient, and the work was flawless. Take it from me. When your trees need attention or even require removal, contact EcoTree Services. Like me, you'll love their work. Find EcoTree Services online at ecotreeservices.com.
Lorain County has a story every day. Make sure you don't miss it. From breaking news and high school sports to schools, business, and community events, the Chronicle has it all. Stay connected to your neighbors and your home team with coverage that matters most to you. Don't just hear about Lorain County, know Lorain County. Subscribe today at chroniclet.com/subscribe and get the news that keeps you in the know. The Chronicle Telegram, Lorain County's largest newspaper.
Back here on the Nick Abraham Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show, Rocco, Nuosci, Jared Kozar here with you. About 10 more minutes with you guys here this morning. Again, big thanks to all of the head coaches who have joined us thus far. Hopefully, at the tail end of things here, we'll hear from Brunswick Blue Devil head coach Cole Carter as they got a big win, 49-0 over Elyria last night. And I do want to shout out the Pioneers in the aspect of I know it's tough sledding right now for head coach Matt Wilson and his guys, but if you read the story in this morning's Chronicle Telegram, he was, vocal about it with reporter Chris Sweeney after the game. Maybe vocal about it's the wrong way to phrase it, but he was honest about it. They're really banged up right now. I mean, they are missing a lot of crucial guys, offensive line, defensive line, skill position. Quarterback Antonio Pride, I know, was dealing with a bit of a leg issue last night as well. So this is a program that, look, obviously we know what the win-loss results have looked like over the last couple of years. You add injuries into the mix. I'm sure there's some frustration, right? Not in the sense that anybody's about to call it a day over there or anything like that, but give it time, I guess, would be my continued message for the Pioneer faithful. And I know that's not what they want to hear, right? But just in talking with head coach Matt Wilson, I mean, he's doing what he can. In again, when you're missing just multiple key guys, and you don't have the best depth to begin with, it just makes things tough, especially when you're taking on the caliber of opponents that they are right now.
Well, and you also have to think about it for Coach Wilson and company. They're underclassmen that are now experiencing trial by fire, essentially.
Yeah.
Might not have a lot underneath them in terms of theirs could be their first exposure to football. And it can get tough, and it can get tough fast when the situation deteriorates around you from guys that you thought were going to be, you're learning from them. Now you're in that situation.
Right.
And again, without that basis behind you for a couple of seasons now, we're getting guys that aren't familiar with playing. And that's essentially what he and his group are doing. They're going out and trying to find guys in the hallways and in the off season to say, hey, have you thought about football? Why haven't you? What can we do to make it more appealing to you? And they're coming through with that. So they're going to get there, I think, but it's really tough when you're just, you're being forced into situations like that, playing guys that just are ill-equipped from an experience standpoint. Might not even be athleticism,
Sure.
Experience.
No, you're absolutely right. And it just lends itself to being a slow burn. That's all it is. And I know that burn might be slower than some of the Elyria Pioneer faithful might want, right? But that is the situation. That is the reality. And I'm fairly confident head coach Matt Wilson is going to get that ship on the right, sailing path here sooner rather than later. So maybe we won't hear from Brunswick head coach Cole Carter before we say goodbye here this morning. That's A-OK. We appreciate him maybe considering taking the time for us here. Doesn't look like he'll be able to join us, but hoping to catch up with him later on down the line, if not later this morning. But what we do have, we already heard from voice of the WEOL.com Stream 3 Medina County matchup earlier on this morning, Michael Keefe, but him and Chad Meyer were on the call at Avon Lake last night for Highland and Avon Lake. Highland got the big-time victory, and Chad and Mike both caught up with Highland head coach Mike Gibbons following the game. They got about a 3-minute post-game video here, so we'll play it now for you. Again, here's Mike and Chad with Highland head coach Mike Gibbons after last night's win over at Avon Lake.
All right, out here, Mike, Chad, WEOL Radio with the head coach of the Highland Hornets, Coach Mike Gibbons. And Coach, 34-7, 3-0 on the season, and you've played pretty good teams to start your year. To come to Avon Lake and win 34-7 the way that you did, it seems to send a little bit of a statement for the way that your year is going. How do you feel after this game?
Yeah, I feel really good. We knew coming into this environment it was going to be, it was their first home game, and they obviously have their backs up against the wall, but we know they're a really good team. They lost a couple close games there, so we knew we were going to get their best shots, and they certainly have a lot of talent on that side of the ball. We were able to come out and really have a big second quarter, and I think that obviously led to the win.
Coach, we talked about it up there as well. For the many years that we've been doing Highland Hornet games, it always seems like the first drive of the opposing team's offense, it always seems like a feeling out period. Right. And sometimes a lot of teams have success and they get points on the board, and a lot of times they don't. Yeah. But your kids seem to settle down after that and just shut things down. Talk about your defense and that effort.
Yeah, I think, number one, the coaching staff does a phenomenal job, and then the players go out there and execute at a high level. There's a lot of film work that goes into it, a lot of preparation. So, our kids are able to, I guess, like to your point, they feel it out. Okay, how do they want to play us? How do they want to attack us? We always say, like, hey, this is what they did to this team, but it doesn't necessarily mean this is what they're going to do to you. So, I think offensively and defensively, that first drive is so important. We kind of mix in all of our runs up from the offense side of the ball to see exactly how they're going to play each one of our plays, and then you kind of, if you have to adjust, you adjust from there. So,
Coach, we're so used to doing your games, and Mr. 2000 Casey Miser is running for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. But tonight it was that quarterback, Grady Gibb, in the second quarter specifically, 3 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown, all in the second quarter for him. Just talk about the way this young man is kind of handling now being the full-time starter for your football team, even though he's a senior, first year as a full-time starter, and what you're liking about what you're seeing out of him.
Yeah, Grady's a great kid. He's a great leader. Like you mentioned, he's been in our program for a long time. He's a senior. He's a first-year starter, but I would, point to the fact that he's got to see some really good quarterbacks play in front of him. He's got a lot of practice reps. They've been in the regional finals the last 2 years, and that's 14 games a season. So, he's running the scout team for, all those weeks, and I think led to his improvement over time, and he's having a great year right now. I'm really proud of him. In an era where you got to say, maybe it's hard to stick it out, he certainly has done that, and I'm just happy for him as a senior.
Coach, next week, rivalry game again. Aurora early this year. You had him late last year, early this year. We'll be there. Chad will be on the call for that one next week. See you back at home, but your non-conference schedule over. It's time to get into conference play, and you start with a rivalry, and you never know how an Aurora Highland game is going to go. So we look forward to seeing you for that one. Congrats on a big win tonight.
I appreciate it.
Enjoy the trip back to Highland, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. Yep.
All right, so fantastic stuff post-game there. Michael Keefe, Chad Meyer catching up with Mike Givens, the head man over at Highland. Again, the Hornets roll over Avon Lake, 34-7 was the final score there. So it doesn't look like we'll hear from Brunswick head coach Cole Carter. That's okay. We'll effort him later on down the line if we can this season. But a couple of minutes before we say goodbye here, Jared, so I guess we could sort of freestyle this week 1 of the NFL season tomorrow. We talked to Mr. Keefe a little bit about the Browns. They're at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm curious your standpoint on it, because I know Michael, he was very adamant of, hey, I don't really want the preseason hype or the buzz. And that's always one thing. Again, I'm not a big Browns guy. You know that. And that's one thing I try to keep tabs on with the Browns is, where's the excitement level, right? When you're kind of just talking to people around town, when you're scrolling through your social media feed throughout the day or whatever, like how much conversation is there about the Browns? How much excitement, how much optimism or lack thereof? How much do people care about the fact that this season kicks off tomorrow? Obviously, it's Cleveland football town, right? We were always going to look forward to opening day for the Brownies, but it just, again, feels like there is not a lot of gusto behind some of the fandom right now. And not that this year is ever going to be a breaking point or anything like that, but you can sense the frustration, right? From the Deshaun Watson situation to the way this quarterback battle was sort of handled, to not bringing back Nick Chubb, to, Jimmy Haslam, Andrew Berry in the front office, even Kevin Stefanski gets kind of thrown into that fire sometimes. I mean, there's just a continued growing frustration with this regime. And it, you hear on some of the sports talk stations, they talk about, what would it take for those guys to be canned at the end of this year? Is that even a possibility? Can you even really, look at your wins and losses this year and really make a true judgment about where your football team is at? Because I don't know if you can.
From an ownership standpoint, I think Jimmy Haslam maybe finally did the right thing as far as going out there and insulating this group. Whether you like him or you don't, he basically said the Deshaun Watson thing is on me, and that I can't marry the concept of that to Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, regardless of, I'm sure that they were in the room while some of that was going on, but it didn't work. And you set your franchise back quite a bit by some of the repercussions of what you gave up in capital to acquire Deshaun Watson. In my estimation, and I think the availability of tickets for tomorrow speaks for itself in terms of, there isn't a lot of excitement going around from this team. Now, Michael Keefe got me a little bit fired up, and as a Browns fan,
he'll do that.
And that's good. Michael's doing the right thing there. I'm glad he has that type of optimism. I want to be able to share in that as a Browns fan, but I think I told you one of the things, and this does sound very pessimistic, was, the second day of camp, the Browns had 3 things that nobody else in the NFL had at that point. 4 quarterbacks that were presumably in a race for a lot of playing time or a good spot on the roster. So 4 quarterbacks, a second-round draft choice that wasn't signed, that just signed earlier today or overnight, and a player that retired that they were going to potentially lean on in the middle of that defense to be a leader. Retired the second day of training camp. And it's like, none of the other teams are experiencing what the Cleveland Browns are in that regard. And at some point you have to look around and say, why is that happening here and nowhere else? And, you've seen it for a lot of years if you're me and people like me and people that are older than me. And it's you get a sick feeling in your stomach sometimes when you read something about the Browns and what sort of dreadful personnel decision they may have made. And then it gets you to think to yourself, well, who is making these decisions? Should we have faith in them? And, what's going to happen? What's the fallout? I'm going to say that this is the first season in probably 4, maybe 5 that they've had a full complement of draft choices that they started out with, regardless of trading away the pick and then, settling, so to speak, on Mason Graham. I don't think it's a settle at all. I think he's a fine player. I think they did a really good job as far as maneuvering, because ultimately you could be in a situation now to set yourself up. If your quarterback room isn't where you want it to be this year, you've got the ammunition to load up and go and get whoever you want next year with the 2 number ones and whatever else you might have to leverage if that doesn't happen to be enough.
You mentioned retirement, and I guess one positive that this current ownership and front office group could sort of hang their hat on right now, Amari Cooper calling it a career the other day. Could you imagine if they give him that big extension when he was, my goodness. It's bad enough that he's sitting on the end of my fantasy football bench right now. I'm going to have to play the waiver wire and get him out of there. But, oh, man, that's a bullet dodged right there, I think, right?
Well, I think when you look at the net gain from that trade, that's where you look at a guy like Barry and you're like, okay, well, this is a win. You give him a 5th, get a 3rd in exchange for him. And in the meantime, there were 2 back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons that he contributed where he was a credible football player for Cleveland when it mattered, when they were successful. So that was another thing where I look at, okay, well, Barry won the deal there. It's just a matter of what do you do with those selections? This is a make or break season in terms of, are the guys that are coming in right now as rookies that are going to be forced to contribute, are they guys you can depend on?
A fine draft pick laundering job done there by Andrew Berry with the Cooper trade, I think.
Laser beams is what I think they coined him as when that went down.
Yeah, well, there might be some laser beams coming off the arm of Joe Burrow coming tomorrow afternoon that the Browns defense will have to contend with, and they've done so in the Week 1 games against Cincinnati. So we will see how the Browns fare tomorrow night against those Bengals of Cincinnati. 1 o'clock kick as the rest of the NFL season gets underway tomorrow. All right, that'll do it for us this morning on the Nick Abraham Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show. Jared, great job as always out of you, my friend. Hit him with one of those. There it is. Big thanks to all the coaches who joined us as well, along with Chris Drew from the Menace to Sports podcast, talking some Buckeyes with us. Michael Keefe, voice of our Medina County matchup here on WEOL.com. Stream 3 talks of Browns with him in there as well. So again, for Michael, for Chris, for all of our coaches, for Jared, I'm Rocco Nuosci, saying thank you for watching another episode of the Nick Abraham Saturday Sports Wrap-Up Show. Thank you to our sponsors, Nick Abraham, Elyria Ford, Stewart's TV and Appliance, and of course, Eco Tree Services. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. We'll see you next week with some more high school football action.